Before becoming the face of fighting games, Sajam got his start by dabbling in Street Fighter 4 and other post-2009 era titles. During this time, he noticed a distinct lack of fighting game content and guides to onboard him to the genre, and worked to fill that need himself from the start. After graduating high school, Sajam became another SoCal arcade rat, competing heavily in both Injustice and KI under the moniker Steeeeeeeeeve. During his long hours at the arcade, he was eventually noticed for both his gameplay and content creation in the genre, and was granted a seat at the commentary table. Getting into the content game early allowed Sajam to begin making enough money from his YouTube channel to stop working his part-time jobs after school. From this point forward, Sajam used any spare time he could find from his college education to live a double life as a hybrid competitor and commentator.
And I had top 16 for Killer Instinct that year, the semis, but I was playing in the semis that year at Evo.
With the Street Fighter 4 esports scene growing year after year, the release of Street Fighter 5 brought in new opportunities and new investors looking to capitalize on the potential market. Sajam found himself in prime position to take his commentary career to the next level and took the jump in 2016 to focus on it full time.
The payday for these events was $250 a day. And we were like, $750 in a weekend? We're rich.
With his gift for gab, dedication to the craft, and a bit of luck, Sajam went from commentating the graveyard shift of online weekly events to Evo Grand Finals within a year.
So I was essentially the fourth choice to do Evo Top 8 that year.
Sajam quickly became the most prolific commentator in the world of fighting games, with appearances in Evo Grand Finals across multiple titles, E-League, the Capcom Pro Tour, and Capcom Cup itself. While his commentary career grew, Sajam made the conscious decision to grow his content brand. Unbeknownst at the time, this would eventually serve to save his career, as an internal disagreement with a member of Capcom's production team would lead to a pause in his hiring.
Yeah, I mean, I got a call at the beginning of 2020 that was like, how would you feel never working for Capcom again?
Even more so soon, the world would go into lockdown due to COVID, bringing down the tournament scene, and with it, all major commentary opportunities. During this time, Sajam further developed his unique Twitch talk show to YouTube content pipeline and style, further building his presence both in and outside the fighting game community. Soon, his efforts got him nominated for Best Fighting Game Streamer at the Streamer Awards. While he did not win, he leveraged this opportunity to network with larger content creators outside the core FGC audience, with the intention of building a show which would help himself and the FGC as a whole break containment. This production will culminate in the Sajam Slam, a team tournament series which pairs some of the largest content creators in the greater Twitchverse with pros from their respective fighting games. Returning to Street Fighter with commentating Evo Grand Finals, the success of the Slam series, and a year later securing the Fighting Game Streamer of the Year award, Sajam shares his complete journey and the secrets to his success in gaming, commentary, content creation, and growing the FGC. Please enjoy. Sajam. So listen, I gotta let you know, I've been looking forward to this, but I got a little bit of a pain in my neck. I don't know. I think you're to blame.
Oh no, what happened?
Well, I saw this driver's license and I was inspired to start lifting heavy weights with my neck here, because apparently you had the world's largest neck when you were back in high school. I don't know if people have seen just the ridiculous stature that you once possessed back in the days, back in the wrestling days. What did you do? How did that happen?
I mean, okay, so as a wrestler, I feel like the most important like things to be strong are like your back, your legs, and your neck. It's a weird thing, like both offensively and defensively, your neck is like the driving force for all things you do. Like one lesson they teach you early in wrestling is like where your head goes, the body follows. So whenever you like shoot a shot and you like want to take someone down, your neck leads, right? Or like you're defensively on your back, which the way you lose in wrestling, like collegiate style wrestling, not, you know, RKO off the top rope, oh my god, like the way you lose is your two shoulders get put on the ground and they stay there and you get pinned. So you have to arch your neck and like fight off your neck. So even when I was in high school and I was like insanely strong and buff and skinny and like, yeah, I was very muscular human, I couldn't like fit my neck into dress shirts. So like I was like 158 pounds, like 5'10", like very, like I was like really muscular, and like a medium dress shirt was like exploding on my neck. I had to get like the neck extender things because it like didn't fit. So yeah, I think that's just what happens if you wrestle.
Yeah. You showed us at the Sajam Slam your driver's license, and it just didn't it didn't make sense.
It didn't have a neck. Yeah, I was just like a blob. Like I look like the Hulk kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, your neck almost matched your shoulders in circumference. It was rather shocking. But for real, if you have any workouts, because I've actually tried this today. I literally tried. I put a weight on my forehead, laid on a bench, and did neck curls. And I've done this once every 3 months. I try this, and then I immediately want to puke.
Yeah. I would always do like there are like flexibility and neck stretches that all wrestlers do, and I would just always do those. And then wrestling for 6 or 7 years or whatever, like your neck just ends up being a pretty strong muscle. Like I don't, it's one of those things that naturally built, I think, and I didn't have to like go super hard on it. Which is like the opposite of some muscles. I'm sure everybody's like this, where some things are really easy to build for you and other things are just like, I can't do it. I don't get it.
Okay, I'll just start wrestling for years then. Yeah, I've tried a few times and I instantly get motion sick, and I'm at the gym like walking in circles like, yeah, don't worry, I'm not about to fall over and collapse. I'm totally cool right now. So you're wrestling in high school. Are you a gamer at this time? Because your gaming history goes pretty far back. There's a recorded history on the YouTube channel is digging up a little bit. So is this around the time that you're participating in any fighting games, or has the genre not drawn you in yet?
Yes. So I got interested in fighting games when I was in high school. So like Street Fighter 4 came out in 2009 when I was a freshman in high school. So it's easy to track my years because 2009 I was in 9th grade, 2010 I was in 10th grade, right? So it makes it easy, right? So I literally got into high school when Street Fighter 4 came out, and I really got into them around that time. But I had always been playing video games. Like I was playing League of Legends and like Call of Duty and all the other things everybody else played. And I think I've always been that way. Like even though I play a lot of fighting games, I have so much experience with other genres, and I still do. Like I'm clocked in like 30 hours of Marvel Rivals this week, and like 300 hours of Deadlock, and like thousands of hours of League of Legends and all kinds of other stuff, right? But I've always been a video gamer, and I started doing sports in high school because I was like, I play a lot of video games, I should do like a sport, right? And I tried football because like my brother and dad did football, and I hated it. I was like, this sucks, dude. Like this is a terrible sport, and I'm gonna like lose my brain, so let's go to another sport where I get slammed in my head. And I wrestled, so I did that instead.
Just lower the rate at losing brain cells. I tried doing football in 3rd grade, but they didn't have helmets big enough for my big ass head, so I was losing brain cells extra quick.
Did they just not give you a helmet, or like was it squeezing you to death?
It was, well, the coach was, my mom was like, I don't know, I think his helmet's too small. Coach was like, nah, the helmet's supposed to be fit and secure. And then one day he saw me putting it on. He's like, this child is gonna suffer concussion putting on that helmet. And they finally did something about it. But no, well, maybe that had lasting impacts, who knows. But it's good that you had balance. I feel like that's something that people need. But
I was gonna say, on the topic of wrestling, it's like the perfect sport for a human to build self-motivation, because this will all sound familiar. Wrestling is in a double elimination bracket where you have teammates you train with, but you are really solo. Like everything is about your own self-improvement and how good you want to get. And even if your team is terrible, like your school is bad at wrestling, you could be the best wrestler in the country, the state, the world, right? So it's really like you get what you put into it. And also self-motivation is a huge factor because you have to cut tons of weight. Like I was cutting in the summers, I would lift like 5 or 6 days a week and eat like a fat person and gain weight and be like 220, 230 pounds, and then cut down to like 180, 170 pounds during the season. So like the mental to do that was like brutal, obviously. But then on top of that, wrestling, like it's not like a fighting game where you lose and you're like, oh, I lost, okay. But it's like your body, and like you get beat up if you lose, right? So it's like a worst case scenario of all of the bad things about losing in a fighting game, but in real life.
Well, I mean, it's worse because you're getting literally beat up in front of a crowd. I don't know. I think there's a different level of battling. I don't know, shame. I don't want to use something that extreme, but you have to be able to put your pride on the line and be able to lose with grace. Really, I've seen definitely some videos of people losing in wrestling, and they get up and try to make it a street fight. Suddenly, it's like you have to keep your cool.
There was a guy on our team who would just always get mad every time and like push the refs, and like he was on his final warning and stuff, and he brought like his "What Would Jesus Do" bracelet to the wrestling meet, and he's like, guys, I'm calm now. And he lost, and he just threw his headgear and like shoved the ref down across, and like he got kicked out. But there's one time where, when wrestling, when you go out of bounds, you stop wrestling, right? So that you don't run into other people and hurt them and stuff. We were at like a home gym with a huge audience, and I stopped wrestling because we went out of bounds, and like the other kid was newer. He didn't like hear the whistle because you're in like the adrenaline's pumping, heat of the moment, that kind of stuff. And so I stood up and stopped wrestling, and he just launched me out onto the hardwood, like because you wrestle on a mat, right? He just launched me onto the hardwood. I stopped wrestling and just boom. It was like when people punch someone when like the round's over in a boxing match. And he slams me on the hardwood, and I heard the whole gym just go like, oh, like everybody. And you know, it hurt so bad. Like I landed straight on my elbow and like my tailbone, and like I was standing straight up and got launched, right? Because I stopped wrestling. So I was like, I'm going to destroy this kid. Like I immediately had like this is over for this guy. So there is, yeah, your ego gets hit. Even though I won the match, I felt like I lost. You know what I mean? Like I was like, dude, I got slammed in front of all these people. Like I'm trash, even though it wasn't my fault, you know.
He didn't get DQ'd from that?
No, I just
penalized anything?
This is gonna sound funny, but I knew that he wasn't that good of a wrestler, so I was like, it's fine, and then I just beat him.
Yeah, you got to get the TOs in there. I don't know, man. This is like this is like they unplug their controller. Yeah, come on. Sorry, that's the round.
It's one of those things you can tell sometimes when like I was like a senior, I think at the time, and I could tell this is like a younger wrestler. He was newer, so I was like, I didn't take it personal. I was like, it's probably just an accident. It's not a big deal. True.
Yeah, it's interesting that you have to go through that parallel experience. Because I think a lot of people, when they approach fighting games, it's not only the dangers of losing with your ego. It's also like, am I even good enough to enter to compete? Because my ego is not ready to handle L's. And it's I think it's good to remind people that you won't get slammed to the ground and launched off the mat in front of all your peers. So yeah, you definitely shouldn't worry about it. It's not that serious. So at this time, then 2009, you're wrestling. Street Fighter 4 comes out. If we get back to your YouTube origins, I don't know if you recognize the reference. Your first YouTube video is Get Back at Dante B&B Collection 2012. Right. Yeah. So this dropped. This is 3 years later, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. You've been playing fighting games this whole time. Are you just jumping between different fighting games at this point? Like, what is your actual path here? So it sounds like you started with Street Fighter 4. Did you go straight to Marvel? Were you picking up anything in between?
Yeah, I mean, I was making videos and content even back in 2010. It's probably like on the YouTube back there somewhere, but I was basically making guides because when I got in, I couldn't really find a lot. And so like I started making guides and videos and stuff like that back in like 2010, 11 and 2012. I was really interested in Marvel. I played the game a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people know, but I tend to like versus games the most. So I was really like enamored with Marvel. I thought it was really fun, but the reputation it had was so, you know, people think back fondly on it, but everybody at the time hated it. They were like, this game is for scrubs. Like, you know, everybody is just bat. You can just mash and win. Like, they were like this 8-year-old kid named Noah the Prodigy, who will never be good at another fighting game in a decade, is just hitting H with Hulk. You know, like people were, yeah, they were very, yeah. Even myself, I was like, this game sucks, man. But it was good at the same time, you know. But yeah, I was making guides and content around 2010, 11, 12 for like Street Fighter 4. I made some Cross Tekken stuff. I made some Marvel 3 stuff. And then I was basically interested in everything. But Street Fighter wasn't my main game. I wasn't playing fighting games as seriously back then. They were like, you know, a casual thing that I played alongside all the other genres of games I liked, like League of Legends, Call of Duty, whatever was out at the time, right? And I didn't really start getting serious into them until late 2012, 2013, when I graduated high school and I was like an adult human who could like drive myself to an event, right? That's when I started to like care about them more, because online play at the time wasn't super serious for a lot of people. So unless you could actually go and play the video game in person, right, it's kind of not the same in a lot of people's mind. So it was the release of Injustice in 2013 and Killer Instinct, both those games at the same time. And I started playing and competing in both of those. But I was making content and a fan of fighting games since Street Fighter 4.
So where does those 2010, 2011 videos live? Because I went back to your YouTube channel. It's 2012, starting with the Dante combos. Yeah. And then it wasn't until like 10 videos in when you had the, what is it? It's what is happening, everybody? It's Steve or Sajam here.
That's when I had worked on that.
Steve or Sajam.
The thing is, well, yeah, I still go by that. I still say that to this day. I was at the Streamer Awards and I introduced myself as Steven or Sajam. Either is fine. But they're gone. I have them somewhere probably, but like I cleaned up a lot of the old YouTube videos that I thought were bad a long time ago. I was like, is any of this good? I was like, nah, it's just terrible. And I just
it's funny you went through that phase because you know, I never did that, and that's something Rob talked about as well. He's like, oh man, I had all these old videos about me. I had a mixtape out there, and I was like, dude, where is it? Like, put it out there. And he's like, oh, I think I deleted them or like unlisted them. And I guess a lot of people, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like now you wouldn't have bothered to do that. But maybe like during your come up while you're starting to clean up and trying to be more, proud of the content you're putting on and establish yourself as a content creator, I feel like there's a phase where people are like, ooh, let me like tidy up the beginnings here.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think you would have hidden it today versus back then?
I don't think I care now, but like it was definitely like I thought like my quality of content had increased a lot, and I was like, if people see this old stuff that I did that was so bad, like, oh man, they're gonna think I suck, So I just remember at one point I went to somebody else's YouTube and I sorted by oldest video. I think everybody does this, right? And I clicked like the oldest video of someone I could find, and it was not good. And I was like, oh man, my old videos gotta stink too. So I was like, I should just get rid of them. But I think me now, who cares, man? Like,
it's a time capsule. It's a time capsule. It's interesting now. I think people like that now for really big YouTubers when they go back and they can see like their extremely humble origins. But I can imagine the pressure at first when you're like, okay, I'm starting to take this a lot more serious and want people to respect the quality of my work. I can see it being a little bit of it's maybe not a good look yet before the audience can trust you and you can trust yourself, right?
Yeah.
It seems like a common theme.
And then you become an adult and you're like, it doesn't matter, dude. Like
right. It doesn't matter.
You just
I think also you understand the YouTube game more and understand that it doesn't matter because people just watch what's recommended. Like people who are digging through your oldest are doing that because they're interested in you already and are just curious your journey, right? It's not going to make or break if they're someone who's going to watch what you're putting out in the future because they're just going to watch whatever gets delivered to them on the front page or on the recommended feed, right? So
that's why one of my
process.
My most watched videos for like forever was like an Assassin's Creed 3 guide. It's still up there. Like
Assassin's Creed 3, all Animus hacks, top 10 video on channel. What is up, everybody? It's Steven or Sajam. You sound
That's a
like
beast video.
You sound like you're on Bluetooth on your cell phone in a car in a tunnel. Like and all these videos in the beginning. It sounds like you're driving through a tunnel.
I was using a tin can. Like I was a child. I had no money or like resources to upgrade my equipment. Like all the money that I made from YouTube was just like, all right, now I can buy a slightly better microphone or whatever. Like that was it. I mean,
but it's not even the classic bad microphone. Like it's not like the Xbox Live headset that's being like your bass boosted and it's it's peaking constantly. It's like I don't even understand what category of bad mic you managed to find to make it sound that way. It seriously sounds like when I'm on meeting calls on my phone driving around and I'm losing signal. Yeah, and that's what you're recording with.
That's what I was going for. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's a good aesthetic. Yeah, it really calls back to the humble origins. But yeah, at this time I noticed like you're putting out constant tutorial stuff. Like your history of fighting game content goes way back because 2012 is the earliest one now on your channel. But it's immediately a combo video. Then you started doing stuff with voiceovers, doing tutorials, and UMVC3 and Justice comes out. You're doing the same. So did you start doing like the video stuff before you even knew about like the greater FGC? Because you said you were starting to go to actual more events once you were able to graduate and get a car and actually, transport yourself physically to these locations to play. But did you when did you actually know that there was a community that existed of people who competed in these types of games?
Basically immediately, because I got Street Fighter 4. Like I think it was a gift or something from my parents maybe, and I didn't really like it that much. I was kind of like, I'm not so sure about this game because like you just play it and you beat up the CPU and like who cares. And then I saw Evo. I saw like the Evo for Justin and Daigo. And then that made me think, whoa, this is really cool. And then I started watching Justin TV at the time, which had a stream called Competitive Online. And that stream was like streaming Street Fighter 4 on there. There was like an Able player. There was like a few people, like a Bison player. There's a couple that were streaming on like a Justin TV channel. And I was like, whoa, there's like people who care about this. So I saw that it existed. I saw the Daigo Justin thing. I thought it was really cool. I was like, maybe there's more to this game. I started playing it a bit more serious. And at the time I was pretty aware of all of that kind of stuff because I watched other genres stuff. And the reason I started doing tutorials and guides was because it doesn't exist for fighting games. But a lot of my early content was gameplay commentaries, which were really popular at that time. Like 2010 YouTube is a time capsule of people buying a Hauppauge capture card and doing YouTube commentary over Call of Duty footage, right? There were so many famous people who were doing that in that era, and there wasn't a lot for fighting games. So I started doing that kind of stuff, which is the shenanigans videos that they're called on my YouTube. They're super old. There's a ton of them. And it was just me doing gameplay commentary over like me playing ranked and stuff. Right around the time actually when Excellent Adventures started to get big, not that long after that, right? So I was making that style of thing because I saw that other genres were doing it and it was very successful. And there was no tutorials for fighting games, so I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know a little bit more than nothing. So like maybe I should try to help some people.
Yeah, the 2010 eras was so good for fighting game YouTube because when I was exposed to the greater FGC, I went on YouTube as well. And the people I remember watching weren't even using a capture card. They were just plopping their camera in front of the TV and recording ranked sessions and talking. I still remember those people. It's like Checkmate, the Ryu player, who I run into in ranked now occasionally. And he was, I knew about his life. He was he was in med school. Now he's a doctor. Like he would just talk about his life a little bit. I knew about him. Free One Up, who would just do his Bison voice all the time. And he randomly, like those guys came to my stream chat one day and I was like, dude, like, what the hell? Like I watched, like you guys got me into Street Fighter forever. Yeah, it was insane to think. Yeah, very different era for fighting game content creation. But it's funny that you were doing all those tutorials because I don't remember any of that for Street Fighter 4. I watched all these people pointing their camera at their TV, and I'm seeing what you put out in 2012 for MVC3, and I was like, dude, I would have killed for that for Street Fighter 4 like a year ago. Right before that, because there was nothing. It was just people playing, and you could definitely learn from that. But the landscape was so much different than it is now. So it's interesting that you already saw like a gap for that in the fighting game space. So you were looking at tutorials for like what games, like League at the time? Was League even out?
Basically, there wasn't anything to get you in like started. Like the way I was like, how am I going to play the game? Is you have to watch these random streamers or YouTubers or whoever and see what they do and copy it, or like use the in-game. There was like replay uploads from like the G rank people in like vanilla or whatever, and like whatever the high rank was in vanilla Street Fighter and other things. You can see those replays, but there wasn't really a lot. And I was playing Street Fighter 4 especially way more casual. I didn't play Street Fighter 4 very seriously at all, or fighting games very seriously until 2012, 2013ish. I got a little bit more confident and I was like playing them a little bit more. And it was that transition from like being an Injustice NKI tournament player in 2013, 2014, 2015. Those years were when I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I have the know-how to like piece this all together. I should start making more guides and tutorials that are like even more like knowledgeable, because I didn't feel qualified necessarily to make a lot of stuff in the beginning. I was a little like, you know, I'll do what I can, but like, yeah, I'm no expert, right?
Yeah, you actually were competing heavy. I think that's a funny criticism I've seen randomly lobbed at you with no weight behind it. It's like, oh, what is Sajam? Has Sajam even played a fighting game before? And it turns out they need to look for Steve. Way back in the day, I was trying to dig up like as many esoteric and random YouTube videos as I could of you playing. I mean, I found a video of you in 2013 beating up MF Slayer and Injustice with Martian Manhunter back in the day.
Broken character.
So that was your guy, because my understanding of your name isn't it like Steven Superman something combination like from Superman and Injustice?
YouTube back in the day, YouTube did not allow 5-letter character names. Sajam was a no-go. So I had to have something longer, and I didn't want it to be like Sajam X, Sajam something. So I just made Superman Sajam, because I think Superman's a cool character. And then Injustice came out, and I didn't play Superman, which is maybe the greatest mistake of my life, given that the character was so powerful. And every single time someone's like, you don't play Superman, your name's Superman. Why don't you play Superman?
I thought you played Superman. Wait, nope. So you at no point you played Superman?
I mean, everybody had a Superman. He's like Ryu. Like everybody's got a little bit, you know? Because he's like footsie man. But no, I played Nightwing, who was not very good, and he taught me a lot of lessons about playing weak characters. And I swapped to Martian Manhunter when he came out for like some counterpick matchups, because he was insanely powerful, like top 1, 2, 3 character in the game. He was like absurdly powerful. So I was like, okay, I should play this character.
Right. And you had some good results actually. You know, you had some placements, at least that I could dig up for KI a little bit later.
Yeah.
And I know you were doing some work in the WNF eras. What was like your best Injustice 1 tournament run that you can recall? Were you going to any majors outside of like the California era at this time in 2013?
Yeah, so like Injustice, I think I played it for a bit, and then I got top 8 at SCR and KI and Injustice that year, which was like a pretty, the brackets were pretty stacked. And then I, like many players, was like, I hate this game. This game sucks to play in tournament, because the characters that were good in tournament were like the grossest thing of all time to play. So you'll never guess what I did. I just stopped playing the game and I kept playing KI instead. And I started playing Street Fighter 4. That's like when I was like, okay, I need another game to play that's not Killer Instinct. I don't want to play Injustice anymore. I'll play Street Fighter 4 instead. So I started playing it more seriously, like basically around the time Ultra came out.
Right. Okay, that lines up. Yeah, because I see with your KI results, you cracked that NCR 2014 fifth place. You won NCR 2015. But I don't know, how do you 16-man tournament, was that a
yeah, it was not the most stacked tournament. I made top 8 at Combo Breaker that year, and then I was like top 16 or something at Evo, top something like that at Evo in season 2 for KI, 13th, 17th, something. I don't remember what. Yeah,
I found I did dig through for Injustice because I was trying to figure out what your first Evo was, which I'm guessing is 2014.
2014, yes.
Right. Yeah, so Injustice, unfortunately, you lost in pool A29 to 16-bit and JDM.
That was a hard pool. My pool was so difficult. Yeah, that pool was really hard. I mean, a lot of people know 16-bit, who now works at NRS. And at the time, she was playing Catwoman, who is a really uncommon character. Like, I basically had no matchup experience. And her thing is that she low profiles a lot of stuff. So, like, there were so many things I did that was, like, basic like pressure sequences with my character that I was like, oh, she just doesn't get hit by that. You know, it was one of those like fighting game things of like, like I was like, oh, that's not good. I didn't know any of that at all. And then JDM was a really solid Midwest player. You are probably familiar, right? From Marvel, Injustice, was basically good at whatever he was playing at the time.
Yeah, tough pool. But yeah, I think it's funny to look back and see like, yes, you were competing
against
gaming. Because that's something that I've known personally. Like I remember when DBOZ came out, we played for a while, and you just beat my ass at one combo breaker, and I was like, this motherfucker. And you had the Bardock going, and I was like, Bardock's the cheapest character in the whole game. Meanwhile, I'm playing like Vegeta 16 Cell. You know, I'm playing.
I missed that guy
top
Bardock.
one. Ugly character. You don't miss that level 3 though, do you? That one.
58. That Evo level 3 or that Evo top 8. I commentated over like 58 Bardock level 3s. Yeah.
Someone did the numbers. They crunched it.
There's a video that's like the Evo top 8, and it speeds up a little bit each time Bardock does a level 3, and it just like keeps getting faster and faster. It's great.
If only we had that IRL. Amazing Evo though. That was a classic for sure. And you mentioned 2015 you started playing more Ultra. Which I think that lines up with when I was aware of you on the scene, because that's when, in my own personal experience, you started popping up on the WNF feeds, because I would be watching whatever I could for Street Fighter 4, right? So I didn't personally see you commentating at least anything else prior to then. So is that the actual first time you started to participate in commentary, or did this begin a little bit earlier with the previous games before Ultra Street Fighter 4?
Yeah, I think that's always so interesting because people do say that. They say like I just appeared in the year 2015, and I think people get this a lot, right? I'm sure people have said this for you. I just see this Brian F guy everywhere now. Where did he show up from? So yeah, I'd already been making content about fighting games for 5 years at that point, right? Which is most people now have not been making content for 5 years, you know. So I'd started making stuff back then. I started doing commentary in 2013 when I started going to tournaments. So like 2012, 2013. I was like attending events, and that was like the first time I was like leaving my house to go play, and I commentated like Injustice, and the first thing I ever commentated was Marvel 3 at Super Arcade, because Ringe knew who I was, and then he was like, hey, this guy, like, you know, he makes videos and stuff, he's cool, you should let him on the mic. And Mondo was like, who is this fool? And I was like, hey, I don't know I'm sorry. And then they like put me on, and then I was like commentating with Ringe for like a few games, and Hanzo Gonzo was watching the stream, and he's like, oh, this guy's pretty good actually. Who is this random guy you're working with? And you know, he worked production at the time, so that was good that he saw me. But then a guy came up to me and tapped me on the shoulder. Just 2013, this is my first time ever. He hit me on the shoulder, and he's like, hey man, let me get in there. And it was Tasty Steve. He kicked me off the mic in 2013.
Big dog to you off the mic.
I got Hollywooded by Tasty Steve my first time on the mic, and I was like, oh, my bad. And I let him commentate with Ringe, and he was like, and he was doing his Tasty Steve stuff. And I was like, this guy's so cool. He's wearing like this was Steve era where he was really skinny. He wore capri pants. He had like this white like sweater with like an eagle feather dangling off of, like, he was the coolest guy you'd ever, and he wore beanies. Right. He was quite the character. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, that's very interesting how like the time and place you were in was really ripe for that. that era of like both for California with WNF and then, you know, New York scene had NLBC, there was these platforms that existed where if you were able to access them, there was a barrier to entry, right? I mean, that was Steve's seat, right? You had to get up there, but you were still like next to the seat. Like you could see, like you could go to a place weekly where you could see these platforms that would get hundreds to thousands of viewers weekly. And the players who participated in these events were like mini celebrities. Like it was very interesting at that time how like the third tier player at NLBC or WNF was like in your mind a superstar, even though they might just drown in pools at any local and any random other state in the country. You had no concept of where anyone really stood on a national or international level because you only had these limited platforms. And so that was a really big opportunity to have.
Yeah, not only was I lucky that I was there, but because I had already been making stuff for a bit, people had recognized it. And that was the reason I got vouched for to go on commentary in the first place. So it was like, I was lucky to live in that place and also lucky that I had already been making stuff.
You were prepared.
So like the two things let that happen. So they naturally were like, oh, this guy makes stuff. Like he knows how to talk. Like just put him on the mic. And like that got me on. Whereas like, I think if I just walked up and be like, hey man, put me on, I'm cool. Like I don't think I would be here probably.
Well, I mean, you might have got on the mic and then been asked a little bit more aggressively to leave, which did happen a lot. I mean, mic vultures are a very real thing for people who don't understand this perspective because they still are, but I think it operates a little bit differently. You know, it operates on a more conniving level maybe these days, but back then it was literally just people who would hover around the microphone physically and just take the seat when you got to go to the bathroom real quick. Someone would just sit down and start blabbing, like, oh, hey, let me get on here real quick. That was really like a way of life for some people. It was very interesting to see how that how that works. I was just such a stream monster back then. You know, I wasn't going to any events really. I was just watching everything, and you could observe this whole culture from a distance. And it was much more accessible. Even with the gatekeepers still sort of there. But yeah, you had put in the work. Like, you know, luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right? You were prepared very heavily for that opportunity. But what really drew you to that? So were you interested in commentary before Ringe brought that up to you? Or is this something you just figured, what the hell, why not just, you know, have some fun, chat with the people? Is this something that you saw like a vision for even at this stage?
I don't think it was a job or a thing I really wanted to do because it wasn't a job at the time. It wasn't something I was like super interested in until I had heard commentary from like my own matches and like other matches of the locals I was going to and thought these guys like don't care about the game at all. And like they're just really bad. And like, man, I could do better than that. That was my feeling, which I think a lot of people share that sentiment, right? So then I thought, wow, these guys are just like, what are they saying about the game? Like they don't care about the game at all. Like, I mean, it's like, even if I like them, I was like, dude, why are they not even talking about the match? You know, I was just like, what's happening here? And so I thought, well, I should just give it a try. And like, maybe I'll suck as bad as them. And I did. I was not great when I started for sure. But then I ended up liking it more and more, and I sort of had that crossroads of a point later on where I was like, do I want to compete more? Do I want to commentate more? And I had grown to like commentary a lot more by that time.
So these majors that you're going to for KI and back then Injustice, so you'd already started at least having some action on the mic at the locals. Were you having any commentary opportunities at these larger, you know, I guess regional events, or are you traveling 2014, 2015 exclusively as a player?
It was a player, really. I actually got no'd. There was a time where KI had like no extra mic. I went up to somebody who you guys may know, and I said, what's up? I'm Guys. And he said, what's up? I'm Spooky. And I was like, yo, you got a spot open for KI? You need someone? And he's like, nah, I'm good. I got such and such coming. I was like, okay. And that was at an East Coast tournament. It was a Big E tournament. I went to NEC. The year where Sanford got on stage and called out Justin, I was there at that NEC.
Ooh.
Yeah, my pool for KI, I got 9th place at KI in that. My pool, I lost to Justin Wong and Rico Suave, 1st and 3rd place at Evo that year. That was my pool. And I think I was like pretty confident against the field. And against everybody else, I was like, so like, yeah. And I lost like last hit to Justin. And then after that, I was like, no, I lost last hit to Justin to make it out of the pool's top 8 of winners. And then I was like mind shattered and I lost to Rico. And I was like, damn it.
They're like, I better go be a commentator now.
Yeah. I got note for that too. I was like asked, I was like, hey, like I got ninth. I know how to play the game. Like, do you need a commentator? And they're like, nope. And then they got
well, they're trying to defend the mic, man. We just said mic vultures everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you had built your resume in the West Coast. You know, maybe you hadn't grown yet coast to coast. There was a real big like regional pocket back then too. And I keep speaking this way because I feel like this perspective is lost on like newer audiences, because everything now is very like across the nation. It's NA really. Like you look at a TNS, a platform like that, that's for, you know, the entire North American continent. And back then there really were regional pockets, and the time zone differences also made it so unless you're like a real nerd like me on the East Coast, you probably weren't watching WNF. Like WNF was at some dead hours, even for even for the West Coast people.
Oh yeah. There was like
a
time
where
where
commentating till 3 a.m. like everyone else was.
I was an arcade rat. I just lived at Super Arcade. I was there Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday every single week because it was WNF. The Runback was on Thursdays, and then Friday was casuals. So like I didn't want to be anywhere else. I was just an arcade rat basically. I constantly went to Super Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to hang out. And yeah, I was there until 2 or 3 in the morning, like each night, basically each time. Like one time I went with my roommate at the time who also played fighting games, and his car was dead when we went out to the parking lot at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and like we had to get it jumped at like 4 a.m. We didn't get home until like 5 a.m. or something. Like, I mean, it was the normal. We were in morning traffic on the way home. Like that's the level of what it was like. But yeah, I mean, I was there constantly. It's basically all I did at that time.
So what was going on in your personal life then at the time? So this is, are you in college school? Or are you like trying to work at this time? Like, are you making sacrifices to make this hobby happen? Because I mean, that's eating up a lot of hours. You're losing sleep. So I'm wondering like what your split was in this era of your life.
Yeah, so I was in college. I was a communications major, probably not surprising to a lot of people. Yeah, I was in college doing that, and then I was also working. I had a bunch of other jobs. I worked at like a radio thing. I coached wrestling. I worked at Starbucks. I was a barista back in the day, so you know, my love of coffee. And then yeah, I was in college and making content. And what ended up happening was like probably the transition that happens to a lot of people, which is that I was making more money from my YouTube than I was like my job, like my part-time job while I was in college. So I was like, well, I can just like stay home and do this job instead of like going to my actual job and then do college. And then later on, when I started going full-time and stuff, was when I was like, okay, should I not do college anymore? Like, what's going on here? I'm making so much money doing this, and like, should I keep studying, or like, should I fly across the country every 5 like seconds and do this job? So I had to figure that out later. But yeah, I was juggling all those things.
So you started already making income for YouTube at this time? Like when were you partnered with YouTube?
That like really a long time ago. I was a part of like the early wave of MCNs, right? Back in like 2012, maybe 2011. Like it was hard. Man, this is gonna sound so weird. It was hard to monetize gaming content on YouTube when I started. I'm sure a lot of people don't know, but like back then, you couldn't just like upload YouTube footage of video games and make money on it. You had to be partnered with a like they're called MCNs, like basically management companies that like had deals with publishers and stuff so that they could monetize gaming content on YouTube. So you had to like get accepted or get in or something. And then later on YouTube started offering stuff, and then now it's a lot easier to get monetized on YouTube. But yeah, so I had to do that a long time ago, back in like 2013, 12, maybe 2012 or 2011 it was. Yeah.
Interesting. Wow, that's really early. See, I figured it would take longer. I wonder if, I don't know if you know what the requirements are like now for YouTube partnership, right? It's like at least 1,000 subs, 4,000 watch hours, something like that. Like it's more, it's just completely metrics based, right? And then maybe there's one last review to make sure you're not uploading, you know, horrific content onto the internet. And then you just start making automatic AdSense revenue. It's all automated at this point. Right. Do you feel like you are past those requirements at this time, and we're able to partner, or we're like, because I'm interested in the YouTube landscape. Like, was it easier to get partnered back then? The same? Because to hear that you were actually able to make money from what I'm assuming is like fighting game tutorials. Yeah. Back in 2012, 2013. That's interesting to hear that it was even possible back then on kind of like a more smaller scale. Yeah,
I don't remember what it was like, but I know that somebody reached out to me and was like, hey, your viewership is
Right.
doing well and we like don't have somebody who makes this kind of stuff, like are you interested in monetizing things? And I was like, sure. So I joined with them a long time ago. I mean, now I have regular YouTube AdSense like every other
right.
human. Like, yeah, because all of those management companies exploded like 8 years ago or something now, right? But yeah, I think it was like someone who like I got super lucky again. I think it was somebody who like had seen or knew about fighting games a little bit and was like kind of sort of like, I see that these videos are doing well in the space, like what's up? And I just like signed on to a management company back then. But I think it was doing pretty well as my memory. I also made all kinds of types of videos too. Like I made fighting game videos. I made stuff about other games I was interested in. So maybe they saw like something that wasn't even fighting game related and then that got them involved. But yeah, it's funny to think that it was hard to make money uploading video game content back then, but it was like a challenge.
Yeah, now you just throw a Minecraft YouTube video up and you're a millionaire, right?
Yeah.
Times have changed for sure. And it's also funny how manual everything was and how it was just a guy that would be like, oh, you're chosen. You will make money now and you'll hopefully make us money for a lot of these platforms. YouTube, even when I started focusing a little bit more on YouTube, Twitch especially. Twitch was transitioned more to an automated or like a metrics based sort of system where then you apply after much later, and it's still more manual than a YouTube or any other platform. But these platforms were very manual. Even when I started on YouTube, like I think 2016, I started late Street Fighter 4, 2015, putting out content as well. But in 2016, even then, I got approached by one of those networks, and I'm like, "What is this? What are you talking about?" Like right before they fell off a cliff and completely died, it still existed in 2016. And now anyone can just like start a YouTube channel and very quickly start making at least some amount of money. Not much, but you can get started very easily now. So it's a very different landscape.
That's how I got Twitch partner, by the way. Just like a guy was like, oh, you stream, right? And I was like, yeah, I make stuff. And he's like, oh, are you a partner? And I was like, no. He's like, I'll make you a partner. And like that happened. And like before, they have like Partner Plus program and stuff now to get 350 sub split. I don't even know the rules for it. I just know that at some point in my streaming life, I had heard that someone who's a smaller streamer than me had it. So I called the person and I was like, hey, I heard that this person who's smaller than me has it and I don't have it. Why don't I have it? And they're like, you're right. And then I got it. That's how life worked. It was not like, if you have these metrics, you'll make this money. It was like, I called a human being that I know and then got it. It was a very different thing. Yeah.
I think life still works that way in many ways, but I think there's more gates you have to get through to have that kind of access now, which is both good and bad, because it did suck when it was like this Illuminati process for getting partnered, because I went through the same thing with getting partnered myself. It was 2017, I believe. I was applying over and over. So at this point, they had just introduced the ability to apply to partner. So even having a sub button was like a mystery, because you would tune into random people's channels, and some channels would randomly have a subscribe button and some wouldn't, and you wouldn't understand why or how, right? And then some of the ones that had a button to subscribe had no viewers. And I remember I had 10 times literally the amount of viewers every day than some channels, and I'm like, wow, it feels like at a glance I might qualify for this. And then they introduced the ability to actually at least submit an application. I was writing essay after essay to say, please, Twitch, allow me to make money from streaming here. And I got rejected like 3 or 4 times until a Twitch cop showed up in the stream and they heard me complaining about my latest rejection. And they're like, refresh the page. That was the chat message. And then I refreshed the page and I was partnered right then.
I mean, check marks literally just appeared too. Like it was like you didn't know when you were going to be a partner. One day you just had a check mark and you're like, right, I can make money now. Okay, cool. Like it was like a random act of a Twitch god just came in and blessed your stream and you're like, okay,
right. Yeah, Twitch has gotten a little bit more automated, but still not much. They have a lot they got to catch up on. But it was definitely kind of like a who you know type of situation back then. That's good that you started to make money from that, and that's interesting that you were already making enough even back then in the early YouTube gaming days to stop doing part-time work while in college. So does this mean that you were already approaching the ability to support yourself with just commentary near the end of your college time? Because it sounds like we're approaching Evo 2016. Evo 2016, you're already commentating like Grand Finals.
I did, yeah.
There's a huge jump from 2015. You're commentating 2 a.m. WNF I was trying to find some archives. All I could find was WNF Online. Like, it wasn't very well preserved. It's WNF Online, not even like the main WNF events. And there you are commentating Street Fighter 4. Then the next year, you're in Grand Finals of Evo. What happened in that year? What was your career growth like?
Yeah, to set the stage, like in 2014 and 15, I was traveling a lot, and like I was doing commentary in places, and I started to get offered more and more gigs. I got things like CB commentary in 2015. I also made top 8 that year, so I did top 8. I played in top 8, and then when I lost, they like put me on commentary, which was like, yeah, it was a different time for sure. But I did like CB that year. I got my first paid gig ever in 2015, which was SER, where I had like a hotel that like I could have got stabbed and died. Like, my hotel door didn't close, and like, I was just like, I slept in the bed next to the window, so if someone broke in, I could jump out. Like, it was, it was a lavish gig. I was so hype. I was like, I'm a millionaire. I'm getting paid like $500 to do like a weekend event that's 3 days. I did like 26 hours of commentary or something, like outrageous number. I was on the mic for like 10 or 12 hours a day each day, and I got no top 8s or something like that. I think I didn't do any Street Fighter 4 because it was Pro Tour. So James and David are like, they're getting breaks and water and stuff, and I was like commentating 10, 12-hour days doing, I think, like 6 or 7 games. I did like Marvel 3, Killer Instinct. I did the only Rising Thunder exhibition to ever happen with Seth Killian. I did more combat there also. I did like all kinds. I was just doing whatever they asked me to do. So that was like my first paid gig ever, was that year's SCR, right? And then in 2016, like, me and Steve had been doing stuff, and Rip, I've been working with him on WNF Online through all of 2015. It was like a side thing. I was still going to school and just like, doing all that. 2016 started, and I had heard about a little thing called the Wizard World Tour. Now, Wizard World was a traveling convention. It might still happen. That was primarily through the Midwest and East Coast. They also had some events on the West Coast where they were going to include Street Fighter 5 and Tekken for, like, they had the arcade board because the game wasn't out yet in 2016. And they basically were like, we're going to sign you on for a year's worth of events. We got like a crew. We're asking you and Steve and Rip to be like our traveling trio of commentators. And there's going to be one every like 2 weeks. And at the time, the payday was humongous. The payday for these events was $250 a day. And we were like, we're going to make $750 in a weekend. We're rich. If I do that twice a month, $1,500, I'm literally a millionaire. We're like so excited in this economy and this time, as this gig-based economy. So we're like, guys, we can do it. So Steve was a manager around one at the time, and he had moved to California, been here for a little bit. And I was in school, and Rip was working, but he could do this while working. We were like, guys, this is it. We're going to be full-time. We're going to be millionaires. And then I remember we were like so happy about doing the gigs. And then that week, me and Steve were booked to go do Texas Showdown. And we went to Texas Showdown, and we got a call that was like, Wizard World Tour is canceled. There's like 2 events coming up, and you guys are good. And Steve's like, I quit my job. Me and Steve were in there like, we got to make content. We got to like, we got to like do something. We got to make up the money. Like, how are we going to survive? I think we're going to have no money and die. Like, we were having that conversation in 2016 because I was like, I'll take a semester off college. He was going to not work anymore and go full time and do commentary. And then we were like, oh God. And then by the end of that weekend, the Wizard World Tour had been reinstated, and we got to work it. So everything worked out. But yeah, the first full year I did commentary was 2016. I did Wizard Worlds like maybe twice a month, sometimes once a month, alongside usually flying to like events, like other events while happening. And then I would come back and do WNF, and we got paid to do WNF weekly at that time. So I was like getting money locally, I think it was like $10 an hour at WNF at the time, right? So not very much money, but some money at WNF, some money at the Wizard World events, some money doing local fighting game tournaments for, I think we did Texas Showdown that year for $300 for the weekend. They took care of our flight and hotel. We made $300, which at the time was like, a premium rate. We were like, oh my goodness, we're making out like bandits. So yeah, we did all those like things, and this is all back in 2016. We did a whole year's worth of Wizard World, a whole year's worth of that. And like by the end of the year, I don't even know if I made, like at the time, I don't even know if I made more than like $20,000. I think I probably made like 15,000, maybe less than that even. I did not make a ton of money, but it was more than working a part-time job at the time. And so I was like, okay, this is progress. Maybe the next year will be better, right? And then 2017 was the most amount of money I had ever made until like a couple years ago or something. Like 2017 was E-League and lots of other big things. The venture capital like bubble for esports was at its biggest. So everybody went absurd, right? So it was a completely different era, but that's skipping ahead a little bit.
Right. Yeah, it's funny to see the rapid growth that was happening in 2016, 2017. I think a lot of people got caught up in that. They're like, oh, this is going to forever go up. Right?
Yeah.
Like this bubble will never burst. Like this is sustainable 100%. They're making a return on this investment. You know, when they pay these players thousands of dollars and we're all getting flown around, they're for sure making money on this broadcast, right? They weren't, but it's very interesting.
No.
Also, I like the foreshadowing you guys had with the Wizards tournament series getting canceled and then being reinstated.
Yeah.
You know, that will definitely come into play, I think, later on again. But that's interesting that you had that moment of like, oh no, this might, you know, the rug can be pulled from underneath us at any single moment. Maybe we should start thinking about other ways and other revenue streams so that we can support ourselves regardless of the state of the world and regardless of other people who are making decisions for our careers and futures, right?
That's what I started streaming, by the way. Like I literally was like, one of us started streaming at that time. It was me. It was not Steve. Steve is busy in a different way in that he is like the most hired commentator in fighting games. He's constantly in another country. I call him and he's like, I'm in Bolivia, man. What's up? And I'm like, what the? But yeah, like that's when I took it serious. That 2016 going into 2017, I was like, it's time to, content is very, very important. I need to do this while traveling.
Interesting. So what were you streaming in 2016 then?
I was mostly doing YouTube stuff in 2016 and like content and things like that, but I started streaming a lot of Street Fighter 5 during like they did the betas for it during that time. And then when it came out in 2016 and then 2017, I was streaming more and more. And the first time I really ever took something from my stream and put it on my YouTube, because I kept them completely separate for a long time, was when I got an editor in 2017 when I started working with Moss, and that was for Capcom Cup that year. That's like the first time he took over everything and we started doing that. But I was streaming around that time and I'm having my 90 something ish subs show up now, so it's about that distance ago in time.
But you were actually just at the time, if you were streaming, you were just playing the games, or were you, because I feel like your role of sort of doing this talk show or analysis lane that you've kind of found yourself in, I think that developed, at least from my perspective, definitely like later 2017 is when I noticed you putting out that sort of content on stream, and having that sort of structure was a little new at the time. I don't think many people were doing much beyond, especially in the fighting game sphere, much beyond just booting up, playing ranked, right? Like that's what you did. And you were a player, and your whole goal was to just stream your practice because your goal was to go to tournaments and compete in the Capcom Pro Tour, right? That was like the only thing that existed. So I'm curious what you were doing in 2016 then, as someone who was already, you had no aspirations at that time to win Capcom Cup, right? You were focused 2016 on commentary and saying, oh, maybe I can make this thing happen. So before 2017, when you started to have the stream to YouTube pipeline, what were you really doing at that time?
Yeah, it was mostly me playing games. And what I would do is make the tutorial and teaching content completely separate from my stream generally, right? So I would like make stuff for YouTube. So like the big grinds I did were like MKX release and like the Street Fighter betas and like Street Fighter launch. I did I did these for Killer Instinct, as well as what I call character breakdown videos, which were 5 to 10 minute videos on my YouTube, where I would say, it was the same thing every time. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is another character breakdown video. If you've never seen them, I go over characters' moves, normals, special moves, and anything unique about them to see if you like the character. You know, check them out. I'm going to be doing one for every character in the game. So like the first week of MKX, I woke up, I did those videos for 16 hours a day. I would like make it and then start the render and then start playing the next character to learn them, and then write the script and then make that video, start the render. And then I did that 16 hours a day without going outside, basically. That was like my grind that time. And I got all of them done there's 25 characters the first week of release, so I did it in 7 days. So I was cranking out like 8 character guides a day or whatever absurd amount. And yeah, that kind of videos, those character breakdowns were really popular. I made them off stream, and on stream I would just like play games and like, you know, just like do the normal stuff that everybody else was doing. It wasn't until 2017 for Capcom Cup I made like a thing that was like, you know, all the games for Capcom Cup were on like different streams, different places. It was like all over the place, easy to miss stuff. So I did like a I started doing analysis videos in that year, like analysis watch-alongs and stuff. And I did like I'm going to watch every match that happens at Capcom Cup, do analysis on them, and upload it to YouTube, which was like 73 matches of Street Fighter V, which is a huge grind. And I did it each year for Capcom Cup up until maybe 2019 was the last time I did it. And yeah, it was like a massive chunk of me and Moss time to do those, but those are like the big grinds I did. And the character guides and character content were so popular. It's the most popular thing I did. And I still think for me, for like short form, just like picking a character and teaching someone the basics of how they work in 5 to 10 minutes, I don't think anybody else has gotten better at doing that. Like people have better editing and stuff, but as far as a live take of this is how the character works, this is the good stuff you should do, if you like that kind of stuff, this is your character for you. I think people are really bad at distilling that information. So I think that's like my specialty in doing that kind of a thing.
Yeah, and I like that you worked and got your chops in providing immediate and tangible value to anyone watching, because something that like what you've grown to now, like maybe you don't characterize yourself as this, but I view you as you're a fighting game ambassador and influencer, right? That to me is your main role. Whether you do commentary, whatever, it's all kind of contributing to that greater vision. And you know, I'll let you disagree if you disagree with that perspective. But my point being, the way you built your path to this position you're in, it was from like the nuts and bolts of just here's value that and information I can distill to the viewers, and you build your expertise and your own knowledge and your own style by doing just the work, basically. Yeah. It's boring to go through and edit all that footage and to write all those scripts and to distill the information and to get it down to its essence. It's really hard to do that. It's really easy to do a 3-hour video guide where you're waffling about who knows what, and you're not editing out any flubs, and you're not actually getting to the meat of what is actually valuable to the viewer at the end of it. It's very easy to do that. And I think that a lot of people who view what you do now might not understand that the reason you're even in the position to do what you do now is because you built that expertise for a decade, literally over a decade at this point of going through that process. And you've built trust with audiences over that time. And I think that's something that gets missed. And when people want to like start their content creation career in any space, really, I think it kind of all applies the same. But in the FGC, of course, with what we work on, you have to just go through that process. I think you just have to start by providing value to the audience, and that will build your rapport with the audience and trust with the community. And then you can maybe segue into the more less tangible things, like here's my opinion about what I like about something, or here's something that's a little bit more removed from objectivity. Here's my take on something. So I think there might be people who haven't seen that part of your story, but I think that's what contributed a lot to that. And I don't know if you see that. I think a lot of people miss that aspect who want to hop into the content creation space. They miss that part of the journey, which I think is super valuable to go through.
I mean, you have to be good at anything. You have, and especially to become excellent at something, you need to do the basics of it many times, right? Like you have to do it enough times that you are like a master of your craft by constantly putting your mind and effort into doing it, and then taking a step back, pulling your brain out and figuring out how to improve it, and then doing that over and over and over until you have millions of reps to pull from to just do it correctly all the time, always, right? And so for me, I love doing character breakdown videos. I like talking about fighting games. I am not sick of them. I've spent over half my life making fighting game tutorials, and I am not tired of doing it. I could do one right now. That's how I feel about them. I just like doing it. I enjoy the genre. I enjoy talking about things like this. So I love doing it. I don't mind doing them or making edit, which is probably what makes it easier for me than other people, right? Like it doesn't feel like pulling teeth. And yeah, to your point, like there are people who come out to me who are like Marvel finalists at Evo, who are like, I learned how to do sword loops watching your video on YouTube. I learned how to play Virgil watching you make a guide on how to do Virgil sword loops from 2012 or 2013 or whatever. And like the reason I made a video on how to do Virgil sword loops is there was no guide. I saw like Shady K and all these people doing these Virgil's combos, and I watched an archive of a Japanese player doing the Virgil sword combo, and then I watched him do it, and I like pause, start. I learned how to do the combo by teaching it to myself, then made a video that was like, here's how you do the sword loop, and here's the variations of it after like watching it and learning it like that, because at the time there was no guide. There was like no, this is how you do sword loops that I could find. So I was like, I guess I have to make it. And I did that for every single thing that I tried to learn or I cared about or I thought was important for, like 15 years. And after that point, I can be like, you know what I think, guys, maybe perhaps, throws are not that strong or whatever. Like, I could barely get away with it now after 15 years or whatever, right? But like, yeah, when you do it for that long, you certainly build that kind of understanding where people know that you sort of know what you're talking about and they know the style of thing that you create and where you pull from.
Right. You found your niche, you found a problem in the niche, and then you try to solve the problem for other people. Like whatever pain you went through, you try to ease that pain for the next audience member. And I think that's just a really distilled strategy for anyone who wants to do any kind of content creation or anything. I think the more I've thought about this, it's like if you want to do anything in life to provide value to other people, which is, content or otherwise, I think that's the same experience. And the most effective way is like to niche down into like, really specific area, because you can't solve the world's problems. You can't be the world's biggest YouTuber. You can't be the world's biggest streamer. Just like find your lane and then add value somehow. So I've really always admired that style that you've done for years, and it was paying off even back then in 2016. So and it paid off big because suddenly, after doing the Wizards tournaments, doing a few majors, you got a call, you got an email, a text, Telegram, pigeon carrier. How did you get the message that you're suddenly going to be commentating Evo Grand Finals for Street Fighter?
That is a fortunate thing. One rule about Evo is you're not allowed to commentate Evo Finals if you've never commentated an Evo. That was a rule that has existed since I've started commentating Evo. I commentated Evo 2015. I was on, this is where I was in life. At 2015, I've been doing some commentary, I've been doing things. I got put on a backup block for the 8 a.m. Mortal Kombat pools where the two commentators were developers for the game. It was like Derek and Tyler Lansdowne, and obviously they showed up. So I didn't get that block, and I had top 16 for Killer Instinct that year, the semis for Killer Instinct at Evo, but I was playing in the semis that year at Evo, so I didn't commentate that block. They had to use the replacement. I think it was Godspeed was my replacement. So he went and did that, and those were my Evo blocks for 2015. In 2016, I did Evo Finals in the Mandalay Bay with James Chen. And the reason I did Street Fighter Evo Finals that year is because Evo 2016 was broadcast on ESPN. And for ESPN, they picked Seth Killian and Mike Ross to be the commentators, right? So Seth Killian and James couldn't do the finals on Twitch, and they needed someone who was not Seth Killian to do Twitch. So I was essentially the fourth choice to do Evo top 8 that year. And they were like, well, this guy, he's an up and comer, like he's grinding really hard this year. We need someone to do this, and James is really exciting and he knows the game, so this is the guy we're gonna put. And I've commentated an Evo Finals every single year since then.
Right. And that was the biggest Evo to date, and like by a country mile, right? This is the first year of Street Fighter 5. There's 5,000 entrants to Street Fighter 5 that year, I believe, and I think Ultra might have been like 1,500, something in that neighborhood.
It was 25. It was pretty high in the end of Ultra. Ultra was pretty
Ultra
solid.
was growing.
That year, I got like top 96 that year and died to a Japanese Viper player in that Ultra bracket. I placed higher than Mago.
Who were you playing in Ultra?
I played Elena.
Don't even know. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I played Elena. Don't get me started on Elena.
We don't have to go down that path.
the one thing about Ultra is because this is a funny story, but when I went to Super, and why I like playing other fighting games besides one game, is when I went to Super, not everybody played Injustice. So Fridays were open casual days. I would go, and nobody there played any of the games I played. So I was like, if I want to play fighting games, I have to learn a new fighting game, right? So I would like start playing other games, and it's when I started playing Street Fighter 4. But I went to Evo 2014 for the first time, and me and Filipino Man got 8 a.m. seats to watch BlazBlue that year on finals day, because you had to show up at 8 a.m. if you wanted to get good seats for the whole day.
Right.
And we watched BlazBlue, and I watched like the Dogro Galileo set, and I was like, this is the sickest thing ever. So then I was like, okay, maybe fighting games besides the ones I play are pretty cool. So I started, we watched all the other games. And then in 2015, there was people who would go like 0-2 at Street Fighter 4 in Super Arcade, who would say things like, man, if I just played Injustice, I could like win Evo for it. Like, man, that game must be so easy. Like Street Fighter 4 is so hard and difficult that like nobody can win in it. But if I and 0-2 are played Injustice, I would win Evo for it. And I was like, I'm gonna beat this person's ass. So I like learned Street Fighter 4 to beat them. And yeah, that's why I played. And I had to play an Ultra character. That was my rule because I didn't really play the game super serious before that. So I was like, I should learn a character that's new for Ultra.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, no, you're not going to compete with like 6 years at that point of game knowledge. You might as well pick up something that's new for everybody. Yeah, that attitude for the Street Fighter players was very real, extremely real. And I think that illusion has mostly been shattered. I think it's kind of morphed a little bit to like Street Fighter is the most competitive fighting game, but not that like Street Fighter players themselves are like superior in some ways, because there's been so many people now, because there's so many more opportunities in Street Fighter compared to most games, that they jump from one game to Street Fighter and they win. You know, like we've seen
Shanghai winning EWC.
Right. We've seen it too many times from too many players from other games who are like, oh yeah, especially in Japan, like the game to play is Street Fighter because the opportunities are there, and they start beating the best players. So like, I think if you have that ego from 2015, like get with the times. But it was very real. I had a friend who used to tell me, like after Evo 2013, when Melee was there, he's like, but don't you think if we did that, like we just beat all of them? I was like, I don't think so. I was like, no.
Just grab the game. How hard are we gonna be? It's a GameCube controller, bro. You play Mario Party on it, right? Like,
right, exactly. I was like, I seen the wave dashing. I think there's a complex series of, I started to like analyze it. It's like, no, we'd win, man, for sure. Yeah, we'd beat it. I was like, nah. So it was very real. But yeah, so that's interesting that you were also exposed to so many games, because I was definitely in my bubble with Street Fighter for so long. And I didn't have that many locals like that, like especially in South Florida, we had meetups. Essentially, it was more like meetups and locals. We didn't have one place where people from every game showed up to play. But there was a couple of times where I went to like a meetup and there would be no one to play Street Fighter, or all the setups were taken, and there'd be like a cross Tekken open, and that was like the furthest I would venture. Like, all right, I guess I'll sit down here and do like a light, medium, heavy launcher, whatever the hell.
I love that you removed the Street Fighter from Cross Tekken as if it's not a Street Fighter game.
Exactly. The furthest I would venture off at the time, like not even Marvel, that was way too far gone for me. It was Street Fighter Cross Tekken. But you got to be exposed to so many different genres of games almost by necessity sometimes. So I feel like, I mean, I don't know if you feel the same way. Do you feel like that kind of sets you up for where you are now? Because you commentate, you have the ability to, if you want to commentate any fighting game at like an elite level.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a big factor. And like, I'm not too good to appreciate any fighting game. I don't think anybody is, right? Like, all of them are valuable and will show you new things, especially as someone who self-watches the clips for Will It Kill every single time I do the show. I cannot tell you how many fighting games I've seen in my life. And you have an appreciation for all of them, whether it's like silly or funny or serious or like so interesting or intricate. And like every place that you can pull inspiration from and like understanding of how the genre works it just makes you better understand your own games and your own craft and the genre and how you figure it out, right? So yeah, I think if I was like too narrow in it, it would make picking up new games and learning new, especially for commentary, picking up games really hard. And like, you know, as an example, to improve my KI commentary, I listen to a bunch of Melee, because KI is an insanely fast game. There's always interaction, because while being comboed, you can combo break, right? And while if they try to combo breaker you and you read that, you can counter break and beat their attempt. So, you know, there's no downtime in the game ever. It's a very tiring game to play. And I thought, well, Melee has that. It's got DI and stuff, right? So I should listen to Melee. And I turned it on and it was like, Scar was like, Toph, in the great anime, this happens, and in ping pong and this, and in life, he's that. And Toph's like, so true, Scar. And nice back air on that. And like, they're not even talking about the game. So it taught me a lesson about like, not Melee and not commentating fast games, but like, you can chill on commentary a bit. You don't have to be so like up, you know, buttoned up and so serious. And that was like a valuable lesson. So like digging everywhere like that can teach you lessons you sort of don't expect to take. And you can bring them into your own commentary, and it helps a lot. That really helped me mellow out, because I think I was way too uptight for so long on commentary. And I listened to that commentary block in top 8, and they're not talking about the match at all. He's like, Toph! And I'm like, dude, he literally hasn't looked at the screen in the last 45 seconds. Like, what's happening?
Yeah, Melee is funny because I think it's so fast-paced that you cannot afford to get caught into the play-by-play. But also, at the same time, the matches last forever. So you have time to meander and get philosophical in the meantime while the ebb and flow of the match happens, where you can kind of see the way the current is going of the match more so than the actual individual interactions on a minute level.
That is correct. That to me is that started the path to me forming my biggest strength as a commentator, the thing that I think I'm the best at. And I realized it's starting there. And that's like, it helped me start to like form the blocks that I think make the power of where all of my commentary is now at like a base level. Like that idea started there with Melee and KI.
Interesting. Yeah, because it's funny now that you mention it, I do remember it being a little jarring hearing you on WNF for the first time, because I was like, yeah, this nerd knows what he's talking about, but why is he talking about the game? You know, like that was a weird thing at the time, because normally, like, I'm watching every NLBC and it's people just talking shit the whole time. You know, it's just a fucking chaotic mess. It's a party. It's like you don't even know what's going on anymore. And then WNF, it's like I could tell that you are technically sound at what you're doing and you are making salient points about the gameplay at hand. But at first, it was like, he's the words are matching the visuals on the screen here. Like there's supposed to be this jarring contrast between them, and now it's jarring that they align, right?
Yeah.
So did you get like feedback from that at the beginning? Like, did you like? I can't imagine you get on the mic, because it's not. This happens to everybody, because I've seen it firsthand in Twitch chat. You get on the mic and everyone just hates you, right? Was that your experience as well when you first got started?
Yeah, they called me Fat Ultra David. Because I was like 230 pounds or something at the time, because I was a wrestler. And then I stopped wrestling because I was doing this commentary thing. So then I gained like 50 pounds. And then I was just Fat Ultra David. They're like, this guy's white and he sounds like Ultra David. And that's who he is. And then coincidentally, I lost 50 pounds. And then I started learning how to not be so serious all the time. And then eventually they were like, this guy's not that bad. That was where we got to. But of course, the feedback's terrible. And I was bad too. Like, I was not good, right? I was not a very strong commentator. I knew a lot about the game, but I didn't know how to communicate it in a way that wasn't so insufferable. So, like, I just sounded like a nerd who was like, oh, the back 2-3 is -6 there, and there's a gap on the 8th frame of this, and you could do that. Like, I was so busy proving that I knew what was happening in the game that I didn't know that nobody gave a fuck. So I should probably just stop and just say the things that actually matter, you know. And I got there with time.
Well, as a fellow nerd, I appreciate that. But yeah, it was at first a little like, what the hell? Like, why is he talking about the game so much? Do I care about this? And I think also like understanding the audience, because and I think that's a problem that I noticed later on with local commentary. When you're watching a local, do the matches matter? It's like kind of not really. Like, honestly, the reason I'm tuning into WNF or NLBC every week, it's because it's a place to hang out. It's kind of a social environment, and like you might, you know, watch the game or get sucked into it if something actually exciting is happening. But I remember there was definitely an era where I felt like every online local and every event was being used as like trying to get your commentary reel for Evo and treating them like they're Evo. And I'm like, this random match in pools for WNF is not Evo. You know, like, I just want to hang out after a long day at work on a random Wednesday and chill with other people who appreciate fighting games, right? And I've noticed a persistent problem with that. So I think that's been maybe a good learning lesson for a lot of people. So I don't know if you approach it the same way now, depending on
when
the
people
event
hear
and
me, they probably notice I'm like way more laid back than like so many commentators when it comes to like the vast majority of events I do. I'm not afraid to be like, oh, they look like lag there. I'm not afraid to be like chit chatting and like talking about the video game, talking about just like random stuff. Like, I was commentating a Chipotle Tekken event with Rip and Steve, and like the cameras cut back to us, and I was like, bro, Kendrick just dropped. Everybody, like, we gotta I know that match just happened, and Steve was like, oh my god, he did. Like, you know, I am like way more laid back. There's a lot of ways that I made it there. The start was with that Melee stuff, but yeah, I think it has become sort of the opposite, that people are so focused on doing good commentary that they think they're doing good commentary instead of just like actually reading the vibe of the room. Because a lot of it is, as you mentioned, figuring out the correct way to communicate. And I've thought a lot about commentary. I've changed the style of commentary I've done so many times. I've tried so many things. I've experimented in so many ways and try to like paint pictures in in small and short and long and like tall and wide. Like I've thought about how you're supposed to communicate these ideas so many times that like, yeah, I try to pull my brain out of it and listen to other things. And there's so many ways to do it. And I think none of them are correct or none of them are wrong. It really just depends on the circumstances you're in and the energy of the place you're in and like what's happening on the screen. And kind of writing that is a difficult task. There are baseline things you should be able to do and you need to communicate, but yeah, it's a complicated thing, you know.
Right.
It's you kind of make the rules and then once you've done enough, you can just like break it and not worry about it as much.
Right. And I think you also understood by your ability to sort of read the room. I mean, you have the ability to give reverence to the moment as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's incredibly necessary when you're actually in Evo, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, WNF, random Wednesday, 3 a.m, it's not Evo Grand Finals. But Evo 2016, Street Fighter 5,000 man tournament, they're broadcasting part of it on ESPN, which is absurd to even think about now. Largest fighting game tournament of all time at the time, in the Mandalay Bay Stadium. That moment deserves the reverence, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
you're in that
you gotta
position.
be real serious.
Yeah. Did you feel prepared for that moment when you were finally there in the commentary booth?
Oh, definitely. I never, like, you get nervous before you do something, but like I don't feel nervous or like that I'm not ready for the task. Like if I don't think I could do it or if I'm scared that I'll do a bad job, I simply will say no. Like I would have just been like, no, I don't think I can do it. But I totally felt ready to do it. Could I have done like a million things better? Of course, right? But yeah, I was like super prepared to tackle it and I felt ready at the time, especially because nobody else had more practice with the game at the time, in the sense that I was literally commentating the game every day and thinking about the game every day because I was doing these Wizard World events on the weekend. I would come home and commentate WNF and like some other thing on Wednesday, Thursday, then be on my stream talking about the game, and like just by the nature of reps, like I don't think it's close. Like however many hours somebody commentated Street Fighter 5, I think the second most commentated like commentary hours on deck after me is like not even near it. I was just on the mic for the game so much and I had done so many hours and hours and hours of talking about the game. I could commentate the game with my eyes closed. It was like, you know, I just, because the audio design of the game is great. So I just was so familiar with the game that like there'd be times where I could look away and look at something else, like watch the players and just commentate the match by hearing what's happening while being able to stare at the players and stuff. So like by pure reps, I just felt super prepared, you know?
So when that Evo concludes, what are you feeling? Are you like, yeah, this is going to be my job? Like, is there any impact to that moment for you personally? Did you feel any sort of satisfaction or like you look at the crowd? Because I think you're in the commentary booth physically in the stadium where you can look out and see, you know, the Evo logo, the stage, the whole view of the stadium, the crowd. Did that leave any impression on you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It felt like I had made it. I was like, this is it, you know? I was like, this is what I should be doing. Like, this is the pinnacle of my job. I'm still broke, but it's the pinnacle of what my job should be, you know? Like, I felt very accomplished. And the fact that I got it so quickly, I was like, wow, this is like my first year doing commentary full time. I'm commentating Evo finals. Like, I felt like, yeah, this is it. And I was extremely proud to do it. And like, I think everybody that I knew was very proud of me as well. Like my family was really proud. Everybody was really happy. I felt very satisfied in that feeling. But it was also just like, I loved the game and I felt like I could do more. You know, it was always like I'm really happy to be here, but like Capcom Cup's coming up. And like, what about next year's Evo? And what about Evo Japan that's coming up soon? And what about like, it just felt like, you know, I did a good job for this event and I'm satisfied with that. But like, I think everybody gets this feeling post Evo where you just are like, man, fighting games are so great. I just want to keep playing fighting games. It was kind of that feeling about commentary for me where it was like, this is the start and I need to keep doing it. I feel like I'm more proud of like post Evo now, I'm more proud of myself than I was at that time, if that makes sense. I was like so buried in the work and like nose to the grind that I didn't let myself be as happy as I probably should have been at the time. Whereas like now I finish an Evo and I've commentated so many and I'm like, guys, life can be so beautiful. Like, look at us, huh? Just like, isn't everything just great? And back then I was just like, so like, I did this. I hope I get Capcom Cup.
Well, yeah. I mean, because you weren't guaranteed a seat at the table really at that time, right? Like you mentioned, you were the fourth string pick on this whole crazy circumstance that they're doing an ESPN broadcast and they needed the right kind of pairing and you barely got in because you were on the scheduling block for the year before. So even though I think you did great that whole year and that Evo, it wasn't set in stone, right? And commentary is definitely something that is, you kind of get a seat at the table and you kind of stick around based on legacy. And it's just a very competitive field in that sense, because there's limited slots, like just by the nature of how it works. Only 2 to sometimes 4 in a very special event can be on a mic at one time per event, and that's it, right? Even being a competitive player, there's far more opportunities to go around. And that's already something that I look at as being extremely top heavy. Commentary is even more of that. So it makes sense that you wouldn't want to like rest on your laurels, because your next paycheck is absolutely not guaranteed. Yeah. And you're not building up savings, like life-changing savings from this money at this time at all, right?
It's not a merit-based job. Like straight up, like it doesn't matter. It doesn't actually matter how good you are. It's completely subjective in like who they want to pick for stuff, like for everything, right? Like you just have no clue if you're going to get the job or not for anything ever. And like there could be a million reasons for why they want or don't want to use you, right? There's so many factors. So all I thought was like, I can't control any of these factors. None of them is up to me, really, right? It's like in their minds. All I can do is be the best possible candidate and hope that gives me the opportunity. And if it doesn't, then let's hope it does next weekend. That's the way I viewed it, right? So like, how do I just continually building myself to be the best possible candidate to get as many jobs and roles to do what I want to do as possible, right?
So is this the time where you went all in on commentary, 2016? This is the year where you decided to stop attending college. Was this before or after Evo, when you made that full jump?
At the beginning of 2016, we were going to sign like the whole year for Wizard World, and I didn't know I was going to do Evo at the time. I mean, I thought I'd probably get some blocks, but I didn't know I was going to do Evo Finals. I didn't know until like maybe a month before or something or like that I was going to do Evo Top. Like they pulled me into a dark room and they're like, I have news. Like it was SAG. I was like, I got scared, I was like, what's happening? And they broke it down to me, and then I was like, okay, I'm the 4th best. Yes.
Well, you made it in. That's all that matters, right? Yeah. But wow, that's very. I'm always interested about that moment of like making the leap, right? That's something I always discuss with everybody on this, because it's I don't know. It's very. It's something that I admire. It's something that I've never done myself. So I always try to understand people's like economic situation or whatever the most that they want to talk about, because I think it's an interesting thing, like the economics of like FGC life, because there are people who do this stuff full time. And then it was always such a mystery to me when I was competing or just viewing from afar. I'm like, are these people professional players? Like, does this guy who shows up on the screen for tournaments, does he make a career out of this? Right. So it's interesting to hear that 2016, even before Evo Grand Finals, you decided to pursue that. Did you have like a safety net in mind? You're like, okay, if this doesn't work out, I'm gonna go back to school, like. Or were you just so focused, like, I'm going to make this work or die trying? I'm kind of curious what your mindset was.
I was basically like, I need to be able to pay rent or I'll die. And I can currently pay rent. And I have a little bit of money that, like, if this year doesn't go well, like, that's probably the end. And I'll just, like, go back to school and, like, work another job. And, like, that's kind of it. Like, I'll just do this as a hobby. But this is one of those things that, like, you can't, I say this not as a recommendation, but I knew it would work for me. Some people you just know, and if you don't know for sure, don't do it. And even if you do know for sure, you better be like he himothy or she herothy, like you or they themothy, like you better be ready, because I knew that I would not fail, which is going to sound like strange, but like I knew that I would dump everything into it, and that if the opportunity was possible to do full time, I would commit enough to it that it could happen. And like, if it didn't work out, it was just because it was not possible, right? Like I was going to commit everything to it no matter what. So I was just like that buried in the work. But yeah, I mean, like if it didn't work, I was just going to be broke and then go back into a different job and then just, come begging back for my job. And then, that was the end. And I didn't have like savings I didn't have like almost any savings. It was like, I can make rent and survive until the end of this year, basically, like literally the end of 2016. That was it. I was like, all right, this is this is it. Like, let's see how it goes, you know?
So when it comes time to re-sign your lease for the next year, was there a moment of reflection after that year, like, okay, I can keep going? Or was it just like month by month, you're like, I'm staying alive, I'm getting by? Or yeah, like, what was that kind of like reflection like as you went through this process, 2016 and 2017?
I mean, it was definitely spooky. Even doing a full year of all those events and doing Evo that year and doing Capcom Cup the year, that the money wasn't like that much. Like, I think I made like slightly less than like someone who's like doing minimum wage full time, but I didn't pay any taxes, right? Because you don't pay taxes until the beginning of the next year. So I had all this untaxed income, and I knew that taxes were coming for me, and I was like, ooh, man, like, okay, like I have an untaxed version of a full year's work and it's going okay. I'm gonna have to pay taxes soon, right? And like, we're doing okay for now, but like, let's see if it stays that way. And the first year was successful enough that I figured it'd be okay, and I had heard the rumblings of some of the stuff happening like the next year, so I figured like, okay, if the Wizard World thing happens again and there's some new stuff and there's some this, and 2017 was like miserable in terms of travel. I think I traveled like 45 weekends in 2017 for work. Like, it was literally, I worked like 35 days in a row one time. I commentated like something like that amount of days in a row, where it was like, we would go do E-League, we'd fly in on a Thursday, like commentate on a Friday, fly to a community tournament like Friday night into like Saturday morning, commentate the community tournament Saturday, Sunday, fly home Monday, commentate an event Tuesday, commentate Wednesday night fights, fly out to the next event Thursday, commentate Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like, it was that kind of a schedule where like there was no time off. The days off are like the days you're flying in and out.
Yeah, 2017.
So that was the kind of schedule I was on.
2017 was definitely the peak of like, not just your grind, because I mean, that's, I think, when you were thoroughly saturating the commentary sphere, right? I think people were like, okay, Sajam, he's the commentary guy. We see him everywhere. He's getting the job done. But also like the esports bubble, right? I think 2017 Capcom Cup was the peak, at least in the FGC Street Fighter cycle. You could clearly see the decline of the amount of investment and the way that the direction things were going, like at the end of Capcom Cup 2017. That to me, I even walked out of like Capcom Cup in like the Sony PlayStation arena, I think it was. Biggest stage I've ever seen, ever. Not even just fighting games. I was like, this is huge. And I just saw, a kid from the Dominican Republic beat Tokido to win life-changing money for him. Wow. This is not going to keep going this direction. Like, I just had this feeling like there's no way this keeps up. This makes no sense. But that ends up being, like you mentioned before, your most profitable year, because there's E-League, there's all these events going on. They're throwing money left and right. Players are getting like, crazy full-time salaries, like 12K plus a month rumored, and like they're making tons of money. Yeah. There's all these big sponsors going on. While this is on the up and up, are you like, stars in your eyes? You're like, yes, it's all paying off. Like 2016 was a struggle year. 2017, I worked my ass off. It was a grind, but this is coming to fruition. Like, that trajectory, how are you feeling leading all the way through Evo, through Capcom Cup towards the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I like 10x my earnings.
Right.
For year by year, right? So like the difference between like barely sort of like getting close to minimum wage and then making six figures the next year was like, oh my god, I'm the richest person on the planet. And but the thing for me is like, I'm really frugal, so like I was just like, oh, cool, I can like afford coffee and a place to live. So like I didn't do anything with my money, which young me should have invested in something. Like I like it was fool, but like it was like absurd and everything was wild. But at the same time, as big as all that was, it was when I started pushing and making content more at like, especially the tail end of 2017, because although I saw how great all of the stuff that was happening was, I understood that I wanted my own piece of the equation, right? Like there was certainly me knowing that like all of these things that are occurring, I am a big part of it, but I don't have my own, I need my own slice where like people know that this is the stuff that I do, right? So I felt the urge more than ever to go back to being a content creator, because I feel like 2016 and like a lot of 2017, I was far less of a content creator than many other years because I was just so busy with work. And I thought about it a lot more 2018 and really a lot in 2019.
How did you have that vision, right? Because like I feel like that's incredible foresight, because I think if you had that idea 2019, I think that was kind of bleeding into the conscious of the FGC at that time, right. Especially with people like Smug kind of leading that, at least in the player side of things, this whole competitive player, content creator hybrid approach. And then 2020, it was like, you get busy or die right now, or you know what I mean? Like when lockdown happened, it was like you have no choice or you are irrelevant in this space. But to have that kind of foresight in 2017, you were doing things that weren't done in the FGC space. Besides someone like maybe a Maximilian, but that was someone who was fully content creation, completely removed from participating in the competitive sphere entirely. Would reference it, acknowledge it, was aware of it, but wasn't actively contributing in the sense of signing up for tournaments or commentary, right? No one else existed really that I can think of that was active in a competitive circuit in some way, shape, or form and doing content that heavy. So where did you get inspiration from that to understand that you could build your own slice of the pie right there and have something that you own independent of the events going on?
Yeah, I mean, it was a desire for a creative escape as well, because I was so busy with everything. But then also just the fact that like all of these events are so like they exist on their own rules and terms. And like, so if you didn't get hired for anything at the time, I was hired for everything I wanted. There was not an event that occurred that I wanted to do basically that I didn't get, because I got asked to do everything everywhere, right? And so because of that, I was so busy with all this stuff. But I also thought like, what happens if like I don't get asked? Because I saw other people both in fighting games and other spaces not getting gigs that they wanted. And I thought like, okay, what happens if that's happening to me, right? Like I'm at the point where I'm so saturated in the market and like I'm everywhere all the time commentating every event. And if people get sick of me, I need to have something to do that's not just this. Like, isn't there value in me not being on the screen? And I had a lot of like reflection about improvement in commentary in general. Like a lot of it took place in the 2017, like thinking about the game a lot, into 2018 era to prep for Dragon Ball. And I did a lot of changing of my commentary for that game because that has a very different style. And in that process, I thought like, well, if I'm always on everything all the time and my brain's only commentating and traveling all the time, there's no room to improve. If you're just relentlessly grinding at something without taking breaks and pulling yourself back, you can't have a period of refinement because you're so busy doing the job that you can't pull your brain out and like kind of pull out all the pieces of everything you're doing and rearrange them and change stuff. So, and it's advice I've given to other people many times, which is like, you are everywhere commentating all this stuff all the time. You need to start saying no to some things, taking breaks, and like rebuilding yourself, refining, so that people, when they hear you, instead of thinking, oh, this guy's doing another tournament again, I heard him say that same joke last week, I heard him describe like this sequence as like into level 3, Steve, my arm, I heard him say that a million times. Like he always says it that way, and this is the 8th time this week I've heard him say that way, so that you can come up with new phrasing and new descriptions, and your voice, instead of being a constant buzzing, is like a nice welcome surprise, right? So like, I sort of had that thought about it and like how I needed to pull myself away, because if I didn't do something different, I think I would have been a little too samey, a little too like everywhere and just boring and not improving and like constant.
Yeah, it's something you have to be conscious of, right? Because if you're on every stream, I mean, you see it in the Twitch chat is just ruthless, right? I mean, they're extremely unfair, and you have your worst critics in there. Like they're silent. The silent majority usually is very positive to most commentators in the scene, but you'll be like, oh, this guy again. There is definitely a saturation point. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I've done a few restreams of CPT events these days myself, and I've already found myself in situations where I notice I hit a groove and I've been stuck in that groove, and I'll say something similar. I'm like, I said this before, and I already annoyed myself. I just did a handful of online restreams, and I was like, I'm already annoying myself by saying the same thing in this situation.
Imagine doing an analysis stream and me and past Sajam say the same thing. You know how often that has happened to me, where I was like, ooh, like good pickup there. Like some way I describe something, like, right. And I feel like I try to describe things in a way that's very Sajam like, so I have different ways of describing things, right? Like I'll say things like, someone will get do some combo routing, and I'll be like, oh, it looks good on the routing there. Like I say that, and I don't think other people would say looks good on the routing there. And I'm like, I hear other people saying this and copying my phrasing now. And then I'm also just saying it all the time. And I'm like, okay, we got to take that back and like find some new way to describe that.
Do you do anything like actually taking notes and like these phrases, these quips you come up with? Because these are common situations, right? And you have to, in a lot of commentary situations, you have to move quick. If you want to mention something that's more minute about the gameplay in the moment, you better get it out and move on, because the round is going to be over by the time you get that point across, right? So having like, oh, nice pickup that encapsulates an idea of a certain situation really quick. But so do you keep a list of these types of phrases, or do you iterate on them? Do you write? Do you have any note-taking process? I'm wondering if there's what actual work you might be doing behind the scenes to help drill that, so that when you run into that situation again, you've done the training mode exercise, so that your automatic response in the heat of the moment is not the same thing. Just like practicing a new punch in a fighting game, you have to break the old muscle memory and build something new. What does that actually look like for you?
I think people should take notes. I don't take notes. Personally, I think they're very useful, but my way of doing it is through sheer repetition. I have analyzed so many matches in my life, right? And every single time I do analysis, I say what's happening. I'm doing analysis of a moment, and each time I do it, it's a chance at practicing describing that situation. So like the first time you ever saw someone do like a punish counter, jab, drive rush confirm, and then use a medium after, or like a heavy after instead of like a light.
Right.
You know, you think about that and you're like, oh, I like that punish counter confirm because he knew that he had enough plus frames to do this. So instead of doing a light, he did a medium. And it's like a very long version of that, right? Instead of saying something like punish counter jab into the medium this time so you can optimize a bit, and that's the round, there it is, like you're champion of this made up tournament for this example. Like being able to clean up situations like that comes for me through reps, right? And like finding the best way after describing a situation 5, 10, 15 times how to do it. And if something is stumbling me, I have a think. I sit there, like while I'm driving, I'm stuck in California traffic. I sit there and think, like, what is it? Like, how is the best way to describe this? Like, there's got to be another way to tackle this, right? Like, there's got to be. And so to give you some examples of like how I changed my commentary and preps, and this is kind of coming up, is like, I kind of like try to lurk everywhere. One thing I love doing, I'm a big fan of looking at experts talk about their field that they're really excited about that I don't know about. Like I love watching someone who's like a musician, who's like a freak, and like they're just incredibly knowledgeable and passionate about music, talk about the intricacies of music, and hearing them describe things and be so excited about it makes me think, oh, that enthusiasm and way they talk about this and the language they use to describe this is so like fun and refreshing to my ears and face, and I just feel it. Like I feel like they're just injecting music into my body. Like how can I do that, right? Or I just go around and look at various different places. Like people who are insanely passionate and knowledgeable about stuff just soak it in, right? Steal the way they think, and not the way they sound necessarily, but just steal the way they think and approach their hobby and then morph that into fighting games. So to give you an example of something that I took and I turned into something else, I think that my job as a commentator is nobody wants to hear what I have to say. I am the less important person on commentary. If Yipes or Steve or someone next to me is getting excited about a moment, the last voice they want to hear is mine being like, oh, nice ant here. So like I need to be as like short and concise with my analysis as possible. So I've always tried to refine, and that's I think my biggest strength is taking lots of analysis and making it concise and making it understandable quickly so that we can keep the match moving, right? And so there was an idea that I saw. Majin Obama has a very famous intro for Evo during Evo Japan for Guilty Gear Exerd, where he's like describing the player. He's like, these are the pillars of this country. Like you have the East and the West. And he's talking about Omito and Nage, and he's talking about them and introing them. And he did this whole sermon at the very beginning of the Guilty Gear topic that I thought was incredible. He's like in a suit and him and Steve are there, and it's like incredible to watch. And I thought, I can't do that. But what could I take from this that like suits my needs and purposes of introing players in a way that makes people care about them and invested in the match? So I thought it needs to be shorter because I don't have the charisma of Majin Obama in a suit sweating doing Evo, finals with Steve. So I compacted some ideas, and the story I sold in a shorter, more tangible fashion that you can bite into is Sonic Fox versus Goichi, the scramble god versus the unbeatable defense. And I would describe them in just a few sentences as like this iron wall of defense where mix-ups aren't real in his domain. He has domain expansion and mix-ups don't hit him. Like he's this uncatchable, unhittable king of defense versus the scramble god who just like breaks through everything and no person can stop their mix. So describing the two of them in like less than 30 seconds of like the best of Japan versus the USA's finest was like my lead in every time they played. And I used it every time they played so that it built like the story of them playing because they played so often. And then building the like descriptors of like this like undefeatable iron wall versus like this scramble like king who no one could stop just like you just look one way and already you're getting hit in the other. Building those like things was an idea based on what Obama did, and then shortened and refined over many attempts and many takes to like build into what was the Evo Finals in 2018 with me and Steve doing Goichi versus Sonic.
Yeah, the unstoppable force versus the immovable object there.
Right.
Speaking of that grand finals, though, that's what a story to be handed, right? I don't know if you were watching that tournament leading up to that, because you were doing, you did grand finals 2017 as well for Street Fighter V that year. You had the classic Punk versus Tokido set, the taunt combo, the voice cracking and everything. You got to be a part of such a legendary set. And then I'm thinking back to 2018. I think that was the finals of the tournament, right? All respect to, Problem X, Tokido grand finals again. But to me, I think Sonic Fox Goichi there, that was the story of the year for fighting games, right? We had this, groundbreaking Dragon Ball game, legendary IP, uniting players from so many different genres under one title, and then the goats of two different types of games clashing under one, and then they were playing over and over. I had to imagine, like, leading up to that grand finals, you're like, I hope it's Sonic Fox Goichi. I don't know if you had that bias leading into it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that grand finals, you commentated it. Is that where the Steve My Arm comes from? Am I remembering that correctly?
It's actually the next year it's Shanks versus Chris G in the 2018 Dragon Ball Finals, which took place on the Saturday of Evo that year, where like Shanks did like a barrier into level 3 Steve My Arm. But yeah, the year before I did finals with Yipes. So like I think it was like 2018 was me and Yipes doing Dragon Ball, and 2019 was me and Steve, if my memory serves me correctly. And yeah, like both of those finals are incredible. I mean, I'm lucky enough to commentate Punk versus Tokido, and then Punk winning his newest Evo title, and then also I did back-to-back Sonic Fox versus Goichi grand finals at Evo, because they played back-to-back years at Evo, and Sonic won and then Goichi won, so I got to do both. And yeah, I mean, you root for it. Like, as a commentator, there's two ways the match can go. Either you carry the match or the match carries you. And so like sometimes you've got to do the lifting. The matches are, and you need to like bring out the energy and get people going. And then sometimes the match carries you. Anybody could commentate over it and it would be a 6 set. So, you work with what you're given, but obviously you really rise to the occasion when the matches are the best they can be, and the energy of the room and feeling the rumble of all the humans around you screaming, like, just builds into the moment for you, that like it just, you ascend beyond. It's a Super Saiyan thing, not on purpose, I promise. But you ascend like sort of beyond the moment that you're in, and it creates that kind of stuff. Right. I mean, you can definitely feel when the commentators have to do the heavy lifting, but I think that's a really important aspect to it, because like we mentioned before, WNF, I don't really need that. But for a major tournament, a CPT qualifier, etc., like, there's moments where I think we have to sell the reverence of the moment and make sure people understand why we should care. I think that's so important to do, and it's something that we sorely lack in the community, and let our tour formats these days don't deliver on. They make it so much harder to dig through all the noise out there and figure out, why do we care about this moment. So that's definitely a skill I've noticed you've brought to the table. But of course, when it all aligns, when you don't have to do the heavy lifting, it's so much better, like the Sonic Fox Goichi moments. So those were legendary grand finals. It's crazy that you were consistent part of all of those. I didn't even consider the fact that you were both 2017 and 2024 Evo Grand Finals with Punk there. Yeah, I did both of those, which is pretty nice. I was in both of his Evo Grand Finals, which is cool. I got to be a part of it. I don't know which story is greater. I think both of them are incredible, right? I think, to me, I hold them equally in my hearts as like important moments in fighting game history. But the cool thing about each of them is, like, I was at a different place in commentary in all of them, so I can look back kind of fondly at each part and like how different things were. And especially like 2018 was the year I worked on caring about the players and how they're presented and like why that matters, and condensing analysis into small moments, because Dragon Ball is a game that's, it's so snappy. So optimizing my gameplay or my analysis for faster gameplay and like versus game style games, and trying to figure that out amongst Dragon Ball, which is like a hotbed. Everybody wanted to do commentary for that game. Everybody wanted to play that game. It was
from every genre, or from every fighting game, right? A lot of competition there, not just the players, but the commentators themselves. Yeah, that was a tough battle for sure. And then winning moments was a big thing that I was working on 2018, 2019, like the call at the end of like each of the years. And like, yeah, I thought a lot about that, because Rip was the best at doing winning moments of any fighting game commentator. It was not close. So I was like, man,
it's great if it's Steve and Rip or me and Rip, but if it's me and Steve, there's no one to do the big winning moment. So I started working on winning moments a lot, right? Which is like the tournament ends, and there it is. Your X and Y champion is this made up person who's going all the way to Capcom, like doing that and having energy instead of like, oh God, he won. Wow, that was nice. Like there's so many winning moments from, I saw one recently from 2 elite level commentators that was so bad I wanted to like message them and be like, what happened? Were you struck by lightning? Like what occurred in this I was like, oh my goodness. Like it's a hard gig, but like yeah, the winning moments are very important because it's all the B-roll that people will use later. It's how people will see the end of the event. It's, you know, it's yeah.
And that is the moment that always plays over and over in every highlight for potentially a decade plus to come. So
yeah,
the commentators really have a super important job in that moment. I guess you don't even realize, or maybe, I mean, as a professional, you would know, but as a viewer, it's not something I think about right away. But now that you bring it up, those final moments are extremely important to make sure that when people look back, they're like, oh, did no one give a shit about the set? like why are we looking at this grand finals? Who cares about this? Yeah. Interesting. So 2018 though to 2019, I'm looking at your Wikipedia page, which is wild that they have commentator history on that as well. I don't know if you've noticed that. I mean, Inkross, we gotta.
He's the best.
That guy is
the best,
the greatest. From here, it looks like your commentary was mostly focused on DBFZ, still doing Street Fighter V, but slowly. You know, I mean, you can't commentate 2 tournaments at once, right? Like you got to pick one time slot. Well, not at the exact same time.
I did both tours. I did Dragon Ball and CPT at the same time at many tournaments. I did in 2017. I did TWT. I went to South America. I did some Tekken and also CPT, and then I did MK and Injustice 2 around that time. I did what's it called? I did Dragon Ball in 2018 as well. Yeah, I did a little bit of. There's something else that year I did as well. I commentated basically whatever NRS game was out, plus Street Fighter, plus a little bit of Tekken, plus Dragon Ball. Yeah.
Did you do any like DBFZ and Street Fighter V Grand Finals though for one major tournament?
Usually if you did one tour or the other, they would give you one top 8, and generally it's greedy to do more than one top 8 in a weekend. I mean, as an Evo rule, you are only supposed to do one, right? So there's a lot of, as you can imagine, discussions about who should do what top 8 for Evos and stuff, and like they ask you sometimes what you want, and you get your schedule, and it's different, you know. There's a lot of stuff like that happens, but yeah, I mean, for my money, I have asked to do a top 8 at Evo and gotten a different top 8 before. That has happened to me. So like, it's just how things go. And not because I don't like the other game, but because I just have a feeling of which one I would be stronger at, usually, is how it goes.
Yeah, but I guess that's why the results here are listing some games over the others. Because, yeah, you were at every tournament. You're on every stream constantly. But when that year comes to an end, your output for Street Fighter V 2019... You did do Capcom Cup. Mm-hmm. I don't remember. You weren't part of the top 8 from what I recall. Were you? Or at least not the grand finals. Because I think that was F-Word and Logan, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Capcom Cup was David and James in 2017. Me and Steve 2018. In 2016, it might have been David and James again. Maybe it was F-Word Logan the first year, actually.
I think it was as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was rotating. So I didn't do my first Capcom Cup finals until 2018, even though I did Evo 2016, 2017. And I did all of the Evo Japans pre-COVID for Street Fighter.
Right.
But not Capcom Cup finals until 2018 because they were rotating everybody. And then, I did a lot of Street Fighter in 2019 as well. I did like all the CPT events. Basically, there was... at the time for tours, 5 Street Fighter commentators that they would hire consistently for CPT. It was James, David, Steve, and myself, and then one local commentator always, usually, right? So if we're on the East Coast, they hire Yipes or Lee Chung or somebody. If we're on the Midwest, they were hiring, I think they did Eli that year, or maybe it was 2018. And there was other options, but that's usually what they did. And sometimes it would be 2 local commentators if like someone couldn't make it or some other event was happening, or like I was doing Dragon Ball, so they're like, okay, we have Lee Chung and Yipes for the East Coast one or whatever, right? That's how the tour worked in 2018, 2019.
Okay, but after that Capcom Cup, you did the Evo Japan right after. So I'm not sure if there's any major events leading up. I guess not, because COVID would have happened beforehand, before the tour began.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the off season, at least for Street Fighter. And for most major events, if I try to think towards that time, Post December, before like, April, it's like there's not too much going on usually.
It was Evo Japan ends, and then final round starts the tour again in March or April.
Right. Yeah. Right. So COVID happens. Things are going on completely on lockdown. We don't really know what's going on. You had already planted the seeds at this point to sort of carry your your career forward. What were your initial reactions to like what was going on in the world and your career? Were you concerned? Did you understand how this process would potentially play out? And were you already making pivots in your mind for what you're going to do next?
Yeah, I mean, 2019, like each year from like 2018 to 2019, I decided to work on content a little bit more. And 2019, I definitely thought about it. I knew at the end of Capcom Cup 2019, I would probably not be working for Capcom again. I knew by the end of that weekend. In fact, there was I almost got fired during that Capcom Cup, right? It was almost like I didn't even work that Capcom Cup. But then in 2020, I did the Evo Japan. I was like, okay, I guess Evo and Capcom are still okay with me doing this. And then like COVID hit, and I already was like, well, I'm already doing content and stuff anyway. Might as well just like focus on this. And I guess it didn't come up, but in 2019, I started doing talk show content a lot more. And the reason is I bricked my hands learning hitbox. I tried to play hitbox and my form was bad. And hitboxes are like pretty fat, like the model hitbox, right? They're pretty fat. Right. And resting my hands on like that surface just destroyed my hands. I had hand pain so bad that I couldn't play fighting games or any game for like a year. So like all of 2019 was mostly just me talking. So I could finally start to play again. And my hands are great now, but I couldn't play during that time. So I focused way more on content and talk show stuff all of 2019, which really helped that my hands got bricked, because then people knew me as the content talk man. And then 2020 hit and I was like, well, I'm like uniquely prepared for this. And I was way more worried for every other commentator or person in the space, like in general, than myself. Because I knew like I can just stream from my house and I'll be fine for as long as this happens. But like everybody else, I'm not so sure.
Right. So I guess I wasn't too sure of the timeline, because I know, and I think you've told this story before about your conflict stemming from Capcom Cup 2019 with some key members of the Capcom esports team.
I got one guide. Yes,
you got one guide. So were you already preparing at that point to not potentially work in the Street Fighter space at all from that point forward? Like, were you already making pivots even before COVID began? It almost seems like all this is kind of lining up for you to just be so prepared for this moment, because you've already were doing content 2017 beforehand. You might have gotten fired for voicing some fair critiques about how things were operating, and then COVID actually happened. It almost positioned you perfectly to be able to survive in this situation and potentially grow in other ways.
Yeah, I mean, I got a call at the beginning of 2020 that was like, how would you feel never working for Capcom again? Not by a Capcom employee, but by someone else who had like heard some things. And I was like, I think that's already happening. So I sort of knew that was probably the case, but I did so many other games and other things that I wasn't really concerned. And like at the worst, I would just cover Street Fighter events, right? Like independently, and people who cared about what I thought about the game would just watch, is the way I thought about it. Like, I'll keep trucking on, and like whatever happens over there will be totally fine. And to be frank, I basically didn't cover Street Fighter for like 2 or 3 years, right? Like I basically just did other stuff because the game was like mostly focused on online, and the online wasn't that great. So a lot of people were like contentious about it being there anyway. And like there was sort of this like, well, we're all free of playing anything for money or doing anything with the tour because it kind of doesn't exist, sort of, kind of. So like everybody should just try everything. And so I basically played like 20 or 30 new fighting games in 2020 instead, and just made my channel playing Guilty Gear Plus R and trying BB Tag and them's fighting hers, and just like random fighting games with Rollback basically every single week. Is
this when you really started the Rollback? I don't know, and you're being an ambassador for Rollback. I don't even know what I would describe it. Like you I think it's taken a little bit of a back seat now, because every game has finally caved in and realized like, hey, we can't put out video games that you cannot play online in the year 2020 plus, right? Like somehow it got through to the developers finally, which I think COVID was actually a big part of that, was that, hey, these games have to actually function online, and delay-based netcode is not cutting it for 99% of the market. And that was a big part of what you were pushing for a long time, right? Like that was part of your content and what you discussed. And it was a necessity, especially for people not in Japan, where like there's a large density of players in close proximity where delay-based netcode will work because it's less distance between the players. So it's 2020 when you started really pushing for that.
There's like an old video of mine that's like fighting games need to have like good online play, good training modes, like good UI and other basic features. That's like 2018 maybe, or like early 2019. But I mean, I talked about it a lot in 2019. It was like a big push, and I was like talking about it a lot that year, and then it came into 2020, and now I'm sort of like Thanos, just staring out at a grateful universe. But like there definitely was a time period where like a lot of people call me like a fence sitter or like someone who doesn't take a stand on things, but I think it's like the opposite. I usually am the most contentious about things that are bad about our space. I also tend to champion the things that I like about our games really hard when I think that they matter. But like, yeah, I mean, I put my foot down when no one else would about a lot of the frustrating things about what was happening with CPT that year, or particularly with Capcom Cup that year, and like the online play of the game and rollback, and even just like more modern things like EWC and other things. Like I have the ability to, I like to, but I also have the ability to say something because I am the largest like person that people will see saying something against it. And also I will take the hit and not accept the money that comes with being on good graces with Capcom, or telling every company that they should put rollback in their game. And a lot of companies were really upset about that as like a thing that I said, or like not doing something like EWC. Like you lose a massive paycheck that could fund like 5 slams when I'm paying for them out of my pocket. But I'm just like okay doing that because like I should, you know? So yeah, I did the 2019 like time period into 2020 was when rollbackia became a thing.
The fence sitter comments are always funny to me too, because I've come to realize like that means that you're just not a miserable person. Like I've noticed that there's a pattern of behavior when someone critiques someone's being a fence sitter. It's like if you are not constantly shoveling out rage bait content, then you are a fence sitter. Yeah, it's like I think some people have this perception that unless you are constantly angry at the state of the world and never focus on any positives, that means you're paid shill, like you're not truthful, you're not this or that. So it's there was always a strange criticism that I've seen levied against you, because I mean people can look back to that area, that post Capcom Cup 2019 era, where like it was like, where's Sajam? You know, like people started to question this for a while. Because they were continuing to do online events for the tour. They're trying to piece something together, and then you were nowhere to be seen. So I don't know when that became more public info, but there was a gray period where it's like, we didn't really know why you weren't participating in the CPT tour, because you were previously on every single, like you were the face of Street Fighter commentary at the time. And that was due to, you upsetting someone because I think you were critiquing things about like the LCQ not having a stream. Maybe there was issues with you talking the truth about Street Fighter 5 netcode, things of that nature. So I don't know. I think that fence sitter comment is always strange to me. Mm-hmm. But you were also in a position where you could afford to do that, right? I think that's something that doesn't exist in the space that often. And that's why I think a lot of people have that mentality about people being like bought out, like, oh, the FGC is all esports, no one speaks the truth. It's because a lot of people aren't in a financial position where they can afford to potentially piss off the hands that feed, right? Yeah. But you position yourself to do content where your brand is your own thing that you own, and you earn your income elsewhere. And if you don't get this paycheck, it's no skin off your back, right? And I think that's a very valuable thing to have. So I don't know. I think that being levied against you doesn't make sense. Just look at the money. I mean, I think you can just look at it from like not even think about your character or anything. Just look at the money. If someone is only being fed by one company, then they have more of a financial incentive to, not levy any criticism that way. So I always found that very strange.
By nature of what I've said, I've lost more money than most people doing my job have made, right? Like it's like not close. Like the amount of money I've lost saying things like this. And to your point about being able to say something, you're in a similar position in terms of a player. You're like, to me, you're like the ultimate number one Karen, in parentheses positive, about issues, because you have a job. Like you just like, if they don't invite you to do anything anymore, you're going to go to work the next day and like just you're fine. Right. And like I'm the same way in that sense, where like if somebody won't have me, it's fine, because like I can just do something else, right? Like I'm just not going to be that way. And it's to some extent, it's like, yeah, you can afford to do it, but also like the amount of money and opportunity lost is massive. Because to your point, I was the most hired commentator in like English speaking Street Fighter for Street Fighter 5. Do you think I would have probably been someone whose voice would be in Street Fighter 6 if my relationship with Capcom didn't get soured at the beginning of that? Or as an example, like not accepting something like EWC mini events that occurred right after, hired the same people and talent from that. And there's some people who like, I think probably did the role that I would have done, that like got a bunch of roles for that. And same thing, there was people who were built up and got opportunity handed to them, and they created life and like money from the circumstances of me not being on CPT. And not only just me, there was others that this person didn't like that they didn't hire, which I think people realized a little later. But I didn't really cause a fuss or commotion about not being hired anymore. I knew that it was a thing. I only started saying something when people from like other companies came to me and were like, this guy over here really hates you. Like, what's going on over there? Like, we're not even bringing, we're like, what's going on? And I was like, all right, I'm going to get a little mean, I think. But yeah, I mean, like,
interesting.
I don't have a problem with Capcom, the company. I never have. Or even the person who like didn't like me, because I just tried to communicate with them and be like, hey, are we cool? Like, how do we like work this out? Like, what is the problem? And I think they were just bad at their job, and they just didn't want to accept the ire of like that and like have an adult conversation with me, which is totally fine. And like if they choose not to hire me or other people, there was like multiple other people they didn't hire during that era. That's totally fine. It's on them to do so. And it's not the only time this has happened, because like in a non-malicious way, the same thing happened with Dragon Ball. People who know that I did Dragon Ball for a long time probably noticed that like 2017 or 2018 into 2019, I did the game a lot, and then I just like stopped doing Dragon Ball. And it's because a lot of the focus on like who was handling stuff for Dragon Ball and tours and stuff kind of like shifted away from the US. And then Tyrant and Damascus had this huge boom. They're awesome, by the way. I don't mean this is in any way their fault, but like a lot of the EU stuff where it started to glow up and be really big, and a lot of the West Coast like sort of hold on it like shifted, and a lot of it was like on Bum and people on the East Coast doing awesome stuff with Dragon Ball, on them doing awesome stuff. And then I didn't really have any opportunity to do Dragon Ball. Like I was interested in it, but the opportunity sort of shifted away from where I was and like who I knew that was involved in the product. And so like I went from doing 2 Dragon Ball Evo finals to like not getting asked to do the World Tour finals for the game the same year, right? And that's not like a malicious thing. It's just like the nature of the business that happens sometimes, right. I think, with commentary.
Right. Yeah. I mean, things can just shift in an instant. Like I said, there's so few seats at the table at all levels. And and they're usually controlled by the publishers. Like even in the inverse, right? Like me and Rob did No Neutral. Before that, it was Logan and F were doing a pre-show, right? I didn't even know at the time that it was something that was replacing what they were doing, right? That was my first kind of reality check. I was like, oh, like me taking this job means someone else is not getting that job, right? I had never dealt with that because I had just been, doing YouTube, whatever, Twitch, playing the game. It's not something I was really even cognizant of, right? And then when that reality set in, I was like, oh, okay, this is an awkward sort of thing to navigate in a very small personal space. And I mean, there was no hard feelings in the end or anything like that. And it was, I still appreciate the opportunity and all that. And it led to growth in other ways. But yeah, it was a really interesting moment in my own personal career to get a little bit of a taste of like how that commentary and content creation space under the publishers work, because you're at the mercy of who is supplying the opportunities. And also you're at the mercy of what they dictate the terms of that to be. Right. In a very small way with like No Neutral with Rob, we mostly were just blabbing on the pre-show. And for the most part, it was whatever we wanted to say. But it eventually got to a point where it was like, oh, Capcom Japan doesn't necessarily want to use the words top tier or broken. And I'm like, if you don't want me to say that Luke is fucking broken in season 5 of Street Fighter 5, like, what are we going to talk about here? Like when the top 8 has 8 Lukes in there, what is the talking point to say here? You know? So it really opened my eyes to the necessity of having our own lanes where we are producing our own content related to the competitive scenes that isn't owned by the publisher. Not that they're inherently malicious or trying to deceive people, but the interests are too tied together, right? ESPN is not owned by the NFL or the NBA, right? There might be some sort of concessions they make or some sort of like backroom ties they make. but the sports media is not owned by the sports league. There's a clear division of interest there, which ends up being actually beneficial to everybody in the end, right? Sports media can keep it a little bit more real. Like when, if someone's flopping on the play, you can have all the talk show hosts, talk shit about it the whole time. Everyone laughs and they watch the NBA game, right?
Yeah.
Like it actually ends up being beneficial in the end. And I've seen that we don't have that fully developed. And I think you're in a lane where you've sort of like been able to achieve that, where hardly anyone else in our space has.
I'm like a very straightforward human. I think anybody who's ever talked to me or knows me probably knows this. Like how I am human beings when I talk to them on the internet is the same way I am in real life. I'm so straightforward. So like the way I communicate with like publishers or people or like work on things is very like, hey, this is what I want to do, what I think is cool. What makes sense? Like, what do you guys think about this? If it's cool, great. If it's not cool, totally fine. No offense taken. It's not a problem, right? So my relationship with everybody is like that. I'm very like straightforward. I'm like, if you think this is great, awesome. If not, it's totally fine. And yeah, navigating that is definitely a big thing. But I think every company knows that about me. They know that I'm like very straightforward. I'll say the truth. I'm not going to like dump on things and be like malicious and nasty, just not because I don't want to, but because that's just not how I am, I think, most of the time. But I'm also not just gonna like be like, is it everything about this like awesome, guys? Like I'm like pretty muted in that sense, and like I just don't act like that. So how I am is like how I will be. And if they do awesome stuff, then awesome. If they don't do awesome stuff, I'm gonna probably say something about it. And I think basically everybody I work with now appreciates that, because there are people they know that can come and do something for them that is very like, you say this, go. And then there's me if they want to deliver it in a different kind of way, or like they want to work with someone like me, right? And I think that that's like totally cool. And like a lot of companies still use me for like important things like that because they know that I'm pretty straightforward and my word is like, it is my word, right? I'm not going to lie to you or tell you something I don't believe is not true or whatever.
Right. I mean, yeah, you've established a level of integrity, right? And I think even that, it's funny looking back on it now, I think that Street Fighter V moment, post Capcom Cup 2019, it gave you a little bit more street cred, right? Like if you had stayed in your lane the whole time being commentary person, always on the official broadcast forever, and then you didn't have that separation, especially during the online era. Like if you had continued to be featured in every single online broadcast while doing your social media and this huge push to YouTube and everything, I honestly don't think it would have been as effective for you. Like I think your branding, your own personal brand actually improved because now suddenly there's a clear break. COVID is happening. We're all focusing on our own online ventures. I think it really worked out for you in the end. I think it actually let you focus on something that has grown far beyond what could it be achieved within the official realms. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first conversations I had once I like started talking to Capcom Esports again is they were like, man, you really popped off once we fired you. If you need us to fire you again, just let us know anytime. Like I love the Capcom Esports team. I love the Capcom brand team. They're really cool to work with. I work with both like independently, right? Because the esports team I work with on CPT, and then the brand team I work with stuff like the Slam. They help make that stuff happen. And yeah, I think like my relationship with them would probably be worse if I had just stayed the course. And I think that they and I would not be as cool probably. And also I think that there is, a separation. Like people know that I'm the fighting game guy. I'm not beholden to like a specific game. I'm not beholden to like a specific ideal. I just say what I think is the truth. And like, your point earlier about trying to build something in a space that like it's a niche that doesn't exist and doing that. I just think about building basically a better fighting game tomorrow, right? Like how do I do stuff today to build a better fighting game tomorrow? And being beholden to something and not being able to speak to what you want to say or like what you think is true, to me doesn't help that kind of a thing. And so like I can't do it. Like I just will not lie to you or tell you what I think is incorrect. I care about fighting games, the genre, not fighting games, the game. So like if I think it's bad for the genre or the game, I will just simply not engage with it. And like if other people want to do it, totally fine. But like it's just not for me. I care about the genre too much to lie to you about it. That's the way I think about it.
And if anyone's watching this who like only has ever played Street Fighter 6, I think also some context is like fighting games as products were dog shit before Street Fighter 6. At least in a lot of the mainstream releases. You can look at like a Mortal Kombat like as like the AAA standard. But beyond that, for AAA releases, was any fighting game product from 2016 beyond actually matching up with like the standards of the era for a $60-$70 price tag. Am I mistaken to thinking none of them are?
Yeah, it was basically like KI was a nice product, like NRS games and some other games. They're nice relative to the genre, but like as someone who plays a lot of other games, like the offerings in every other place is like so far beyond. I think even still, to be honest, even though as good as Street Fighter 6 is as a package, like in a lot of ways I compare it to other competitive games that are free to play, and like there's such a gulf between what they're trying to do and trying to accomplish, right? Like Capcom is clearly doing something so different with Street Fighter 6 that like a game like Apex Legends, Valorant, Dota, CS, like something like that is doing.
Yeah, it was funny hearing SK's reactions to some Street Fighter 6 things, because Street Fighter 6 was such like a breath of fresh air. It was like, oh my god, a fully baked, completed fighting game on release day one. The online works good. There's a story mode, there's a world tour, there's a social battle hub. We have 16 or 18 characters or whatever. Yeah, right. Things are working, you know. It's like we're getting kicked off the server every 5 seconds, and SK is like, this game has nothing. Where's the content? What's going on? And I'm like, man, I'm old and I have no idea what's going on in the gaming space.
All the people who played in the Tekken Slam were like, does this game like want to die? Like, where's all the content? They're like Tekken's releasing customizations and stuff even faster than Street Fighter is, right? And they're like, dude, there's nothing for like 4 weeks. Like, does this game not want to keep my attention and want me to play it or care about it? And I was like, man, this game has like way more going on than so many other games. And like one of them wrote like this long thing that was like, I don't want this game to die. Like, it needs to release characters and skins like faster. What's happening? And I was like, man, they just... Yeah, the modern gaming market and like modern gamers exist and expect something completely different than what the fighting game genre is offering, even still.
Right. Yeah. It was very jarring to see that, because man, just Street Fighter 6 was like, oh, thank God they finished the game. Like compared to Street Fighter 5 release, which came out of the oven 3 years too soon. Like, oh my God, I couldn't even in good conscious recommend Street Fighter 5 till like Arcade Edition. Arcade Edition, I was like, okay. They even had the trailer, you know, post Capcom Code 2017.
The launch trailer?
Like, yeah, they're like, okay, sorry, we finished the game now. Here's the rest of the characters. Here's another V trigger. Like the game actually works now. There's an arcade mode, right? It was very interesting to see that.
Here's an arcade mode 2 years after it came out. Oh man.
And that was such a stupid miss, because arcade mode is like, I got flack for this, talking about this on a recent take I had, but arcade mode is meant to appease, I think, the older fighting game player and maybe like some really, maybe like young kids to me. Yeah. I think if you are a modern competitive player who's in the sphere that we're talking about, like you're playing an Overwatch, you're playing Apex Legends, whatever, a League of Legends, I don't think you're booting up arcade mode, right? I don't even think you consider that. So to me, arcade mode is going to be for people who are older gamers who have nostalgia for the franchise, and like maybe like a 6-year-old, like something for like a child to play without even knowing if they're hitting the buttons or not. I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone who loves arcade mode and they're a fully functioning adult and participating in the genre. There are people
who like it, but
it's not a primary game mode, right? It's not something that's that important, and also I would assume doesn't take as much development costs as the rest of the game. But you need that because of the expectations of the fighting game genre, because so many of the people who review your games and purchase it are those people who play for 1 week and they want to dabble in arcade mode. Like that is like a huge percent of the audience that actually purchases a game. The people who actually play past that point are like 0.01% of the audience. So to not have that on release for Street Fighter 5 is like what a thing to miss out on that could have saved you so much consumer goodwill that you just dropped the ball on. Like, shocking to look back at.
Every person who played in the Slam is like a modern gamer. They just like boot up the game. They kind of sort of look at the tutorial, sort of, kind of. And then they're like, I need to fight other humans in rank to prove myself and get internet points right now. Like, that's how people play modern games. Like, every single game. Like, they just want to drop in and play a mode against other humans very fast, regardless of anything else. Like, you know, Marvel Rivals just released, and it has like you must be level 10 to play ranked, and people are like, all right, fine, like I'll grind to get level 10 real quick. Like, they don't even know how to play the game or what any of the characters do, and they're like, all right, fine, I'll get this boring part where I can't play ranked out of way, you know.
Interesting. Yeah, like we are, I think that's another strength that you have, is that you are not just a fighting game player, you are a gamer, right? And the Slam helped reopen my perspective to other gamers and other genres, right? And how like their existence is and these spaces and how those games operate. because I've been in the fighting game bubble. I was a gamer before Street Fighter, and Street Fighter ruined my life, and now I'm just like stuck in this niche, right? So you have maintained that perspective throughout this time, even during the online era, maybe even more so, because for a while it's hard to play games online until Guilty Gear Strive. Do you think that's helped you in terms of your perspective and the content you produce? Because I feel like you are able to actually bridge these gaps in ways that other people in our space are not.
Definitely. The way I communicate or describe other things, for sure, my constant battle about fighting game difficulty stems from a lot of, I think, experience playing other games and not like inexperience where other people just don't play them and they're like, how hard could a MOBA be? You just click the little guys. But yeah, I mean, I play everything. I'm interested in everything. Like, I love fighting games, are my favorite genre of game, but I also love card games. Like when I'm not playing fighting games, I was grinding to the highest rank in all the card games that I played. Like I was masters in LOR, and I played a lot of other trading card games when I was younger, and then like grinding to masters in TFT or playing other competitive games like shooting games. I love BR games a lot. Like I play everything, right? So like it's one of those things where I can't imagine not playing other genres of game. It's nice to like disconnect from fighting games and then come back, and it gives me a new appreciation. But also I think like, you mentioned Max earlier, like connecting the genres, right? Connecting people from other places. Someone like Max is big enough to do something like a slam or think about something like that, but he doesn't reach through the communities in the same way, right? He doesn't know, I think, a lot of people in other Twitch spaces, because he does his thing with his dudes and it's awesome and people love it. But like, I'm someone who plays and knows other genres, and I can reach through and like pull people in to like this fighting game multiverse that we're trying to create and be like, you are from this, that this is this, like, and connect, like the connective tissue of it, I feel like uniquely positioned to help with that. So yeah, I think playing other genres really helps,
Right. Yeah, because in this era, you start doing all this content online, and you still seem very in the fighting game lane, right? Like you are the fighting game talk show guy. You're putting out YouTube content every day. You've mastered the Twitch to YouTube pipeline. You had like this well-oiled machine going on. While you're staying away from pretty much almost any commentary gigs for quite a while. I mean, there's a handful of events you participated in between these years and some online events. But for the most part, there was an era where like you weren't really a commentator in the eyes of at least myself and maybe other people as well. You were an influencer and a content creator, right? Mm-hmm. At what point did you start to see this opportunity to connect other people together, like you were alluding to, right? Because suddenly now you have a successful event series with Sajam Slam. You had some other content initiatives in this sort of like series format, right? You had the basic talk show, you had Will It Kill, which was also a very big success already. So you've gotten your feet wet in terms of producing like a series of something. But to me, you've shown this ability to network in a way that I didn't really know was apparent until I saw the slam put together and it was a product in front of my eyes. I'm like, how the hell did Sajam get Lily Pichu to start playing Tekken? You know what I mean? Like suddenly it was in my face and I was like, what? How did this even come to be? That to me, from the outside looking in, was just a huge leap from fighting game guy to suddenly the entire Twitch content verse is coming together to play fighting games.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that I'm like a content creator influencer, man. I still think of myself as like a commentator who streams. It's like not accurate. I think that's probably not true, but like I think of myself as a commentator. Like that's my job, but the streaming stuff is just there when I'm not doing that. But yeah, like I pitched the slam before Street Fighter 6 came out. I pitched it like 3 years ago. There was like other event styles of like pro-am competition. And I was like, guys, this kind of pro-am thing is like going to be huge. This is before CR Cup was a thing. Like, I was like, this pro-am idea is really strong. I think people will really like it. We should do a pro-am. Like when Street Fighter 6 was coming out, I pitched it everywhere I could. I was like, guys, something like this would be really successful. You take like, pro-am is pros and amateurs, right? So you take them and stick them together and like, this is going to be awesome. Like you do this kind of thing. I promise it would be sick. You could definitely get people. I know people who like play fighting games and are interested in them from other genres, and they would like really like this, right? I pitched it everywhere. I pitched it to so many places, so many companies. I pitched it somewhere. And they were like, we don't need your event idea. We have Maximilian dude already. We're just gonna do what he wants to do. Like I pitched it to like so many places that, and none of them would listen. They all were like, no, I don't think people will bite this idea. You know what fighting game players like? Tournaments. We're gonna do a tournament where like the best player wins, because tournaments are what fighting games make. And I was like, I know. And everyone else is gonna do tournaments and they're gonna be better than yours. So let's do something different. And they were just like, no. So I pitched it before Street Fighter 6 came out. And then I pitched it when Street Fighter 6 was out. Then I pitched it when Tekken 8 was coming out. Like, this is it, guys. Like, new chance. Like, Pro-Am. And at the, Street Fighter 6 came out. I did Ludwig's World's Greatest Gamer event. I met a lot of people there who, like, played Street Fighter for the event. And, like, they were kind of like, oh, this is sort of fun. I'm interested. I met Box through that and a lot of other people. And when Tekken 8 was coming out, I pitched it again. And I got told no again. And I was like, man, fuck this. I'm doing it myself. I just got pissed. I was like, dude, this is unbelievable. Like, this idea is like such a great idea. I'm just doing it myself. So, I talked to Box about it. I talked to Emily, she's like, as you know, Nyx Rose, my fiance. She's excellent at managerial stuff. She used to run a fighting game team. She ran a Tekken team, so she knows a lot of Tekken players and helped me connect with a lot of them and like made a lot of suggestions there. So she was just like, dude, yeah, we could do it. Like, why not? Like, I'll just help you do all the management stuff. You do the human being in front of the camera and like networking stuff. Like, we can make this happen. So I talked to Box about it. He was on board. I went to the Streamer Awards at the start of this year in February, and I did a little bit of recruiting. I was like, I'm nominated for Fighting Game Streamer of the Year, but I'm doing this event where like, streamers play against each other, and I think it would be really fun. Like, you ever thought about trying Tekken? Like, maybe you should try Tekken, because I think it was coming out like a week after or something, or like it had just come out, one of the two. So we ran the idea by lots of people there. They were really interested. And then we did the very first Tekken Slam, which I was very careful about because I'm not a Tekken person. So I had to really respect the game and community in a different way. Cause like I'm not a Tekken person. It's not my area of expertise. I had to have Steve on do the commentary. A lot of like the things involved with it. I was vetting lots of people and like asking lots of opinions and trying to be respectful to the space, because I'm a fighting game person, but like I get offered Tekken gigs or Smash gigs or like random games I don't do all the time. And I just always say no, because it's not my area of expertise. You should hire a professional. So I try to be very careful about constructing an event that was authentic to Tekken while giving these streamers like a fun, unique thing. And I knew my format was a really cool idea and that people would really like it. It's just nobody wanted to fund it. So I spent my own money, and it probably cost me 15 to 20,000 to run and do the event. And I probably made like 5 to 10,000 on the event, maybe a little less on revenue and other things. So it cost me 10 to 15,000 to run the first slam in losses, right? That's what I lost running the very first slam. And it was awesome. People loved it. I consider the event a massive success, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it cost you 10,000, but I feel like that was your moment where you broke containment, right?
Right.
You paid that monetary due, but you literally broke containment in a way that the FGC has never seen. That does not exist, right?
Yeah.
You're the first person to connect the FGC Twitch bubble and content verse to the rest of like mainstream Twitch. Like, there's a whole culture and community that exists. And I feel like if you participated in almost any other genre on Twitch, you are more tied to that community than FGC was. I'm sure there's other sub communities that are also very isolated as well.
Right.
I'm sure we're not completely alone in that sense where we're extremely isolated, but you even look at like speedrunning. Speedrunning has so many jumping off points back to like mainstream Twitch culture. You look at any like GTA roleplay, whatever. There's connection. Like, there's connections in any other niche that you can think of that somehow tie back into the greater Twitch culture. And we were completely removed from that. Smash had, that broken that containment as well a long time ago, and then Ludwig, was like that big ambassador there as well. But we hadn't had that. So it's interesting to hear that you actually made that opportunity happen, in part because you're able to network at the Streamer Awards put on by Cutie Cinderella, right? There's a lot of things coming together there.
Even more,
it was had that moment.
It was like a combination of like, I did her Beyblade event because somebody dropped out and she needed a spare commentator to commentate Beyblade. So I went and commentated Beyblade for Cutie, and then Ludwig needed a commentator for the World's Greatest Gamer,
right? And
they're like, oh, this guy did Cutie's event, he's really awesome, I know who he is, like, he's great, we should use him. And I met a lot of people there, and then I was nominated for the Streamer Award. So I used all three of those things as like hey, you guys all know me as Fighting Game Man, trust me, I have a great idea, what do we think? Like, I'm gonna do this thing, and it's going to be awesome. And yeah, I knew our format would be sick. I knew the idea was good because I always knew it was good, but like CR Cup and other places were executing it very well. And I knew our take on it was going to be interesting and cool. And like a lot of people wanted to get involved. They just needed a place to do so, because if you look at any other kind of event like this in every other space, streamers just want a way to play the game that's not like them queuing into random people who can like be malicious to them, or like it's like a voidless experience. So like giving them tangible opponents who are other streamers in the space that they can create natural rivalries or friendships with, like everything about it was awesome. And the genre is so good, you just have to give it to them in a way that they can like tango with, and not in a way that's very intimidating, you know?
Yeah, I mean, solo queuing into ranked with faceless opponents who are just beating your ass all day, maybe taunting you, trolling you. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a very harsh genre. Yeah. And if you aren't like nose to the grindstone, like trying to actually be the best, it's like, what incentive do you have to play this? It's a lonely exercise and learning a skill, which is admirable in its own way. But if you are a content creator, if your goal is not to create content around developing skills, then that doesn't really suit what you're doing, right?
Right.
If you are, I'm the guy who learns a skill, then a fighting game is perfect for you. You can walk through your strategies and your how you approach things, and there's content to be made in that sort of sense. But if you're an entertainer, it's really hard to find that unless you're networking like you did, arranging sort sets or some sort of events where you can actually collaborate with each other. And most people in the fighting game space are of the I'm developing a skill mindset, and it's a kind of a solo adventure, right? Yeah. Like no one was really in that position or willing to take time away from skill development to make those connections. But I think it was immediately apparent, like, wow, wait, this worked. Like, like at first it sounded kind of like, is anyone going to take it seriously? Yeah. There was definitely some doubts, and I had my doubts as well, because how serious would these streamers who are very busy, they have a lot of success in other ways, they could be focusing on anything, are they actually going to give it their all? Are they going to treat the event with respect? Or are they just going to not practice and show up the day of and say, fuck it, I don't even care? Like, it was really a big question. But I think day of, or not day of, even weeks before, you could see, like, with different levels of commitment, a lot of these people were getting into it, like serious, like right away. So was that something that you were surprised by, or like what was your reaction when you started to see like the training begin?
I knew it. I just knew it. I was like, this is definitely, people are going to love it. One of the problems with our genre, and people know this, is that it's not cooperative. And if you want to teach your friend fighting games, the only way you tango is against each other. It's naturally combative a lot of times, right? But like fighting games, one of our biggest weaknesses is you don't have that cooperative experience. And giving you a coach, like giving you a cause to fight for, like, so a real tangible goal, not just, I hope I get good, a real tangible goal with a coach to guide you. It creates a collaborative experience with an end goal that like naturally ties together very well. And you don't want to lose because you're on stream with and your viewers are interested in it and they're excited, and it gets them interested in the genre. And it's very easy stakes to understand, but the stakes are not that high because our prize is like a trip to Evo and like no money basically. But you know, it's still stakes, and like people are very invested in it. And like we wanted to make sure every single match mattered. So the newest players on every team are worth the exact same amount as the best players on every team. So like each level of play is accounted for and thought of. Like, you know, we really put a lot into making sure the event format, experience, and like play from start to finish would feel good. And we did a lot of things really correctly immediately. There's things that we fixed or changed or we've thought of and we've done differently in the various slams. And that's even the case for the next slam, which is getting announced pretty soon. But like, you know, we've done a lot of thinking. We put a lot of effort into it. And yeah, to your point about streamers not caring, I mean, I watched someone who like got sponsored, they're a Japanese Street Fighter player who like, they don't play Street Fighter as their main game. They're like one of the big streamers that played in CR Cups and stuff. They got sponsored to play in like a Tekken event. He was like mid Apex match and was like, oh, I gotta go do that sponsored Tekken thing. Left the Apex match or whatever, right? Like shows up late, boots up special style in Tekken, mashes, finishes his match, and then like goes back and plays Apex. And that was like his like Tekken experience. And like, because I'm a creator, one thing people probably don't realize, but as a creator, when I ask another creator or streamer to come do this kind of thing, there's like a mutual respect that like they will take my event seriously, and I'm gonna put them in a position to succeed and give them like a fun time, and that they should care and think about the event. And like that, if they did the same to me, I would reciprocate that. And it doesn't need to be like company hands you $1 million, you play the game and not care about it. It's like I hand you nothing, and it's the most important thing for you, right? Like there's a different relationship there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just that relationship. I think there's also an understanding that this will be like, you wouldn't run this event unless you thought it would be something that would be fruitful, that would be entertaining, that would build an experience for everyone involved. If a company runs an event, you have no idea if it matters or not, or usually you can tell right away if it matters or not, like if there's actual care put into it, or if they're just they got a sponsor budget and they're put on video game events. What do? I don't know, right? Like there's many layers that it goes through. By the time it gets to you, it doesn't even represent anything that's community driven or having any sort of passion behind it. Yeah. So I think there's an immediate understanding that this is organic and that there will be something to come from it. And I think content creators are also always looking for something cool to do. Like if you're like a general personality content creator, like your job is to always have something interesting to do. So if someone says, here's something interesting to do for free, I think you're just kind of doing part of their job for them, right? There's a mutual beneficial sort of a transaction there.
Yeah, and it's fun. Like it's a fun event to do. It's a good time.
Yeah, it's very fun. I was hesitant at first. You approached me about it, and I was like, listen, like I'm not a content creator. I'm a fighting game player. Kind of like you're not a I'm not a content creator. I'm a commentator. I'm still of that mindset as well. Mm-hmm. So you approached me with that. I was like, am I going to take time to actually coach these kids on how to do low forward drive rush? It's very complex. It's you got to press down and a button, two buttons together. But I got over that and I did it, and it was an amazing time. I really, really enjoyed it. And then looking back at it, like just today, they did the Twitch recaps, and I tweeted out about it. It had like my most viewed streams, and SK's in there, like number 3 most watched streams. But like my number 1 most watched stream, it's like 300 chat comments for the year. 60 chat comments for the year for number 2. Then SK stream, 3rd most watched stream, like nearly 3,000 chat comments. Because for this week straight, I'm just backseating like fucking crazy nonstop at SK stream chat. And I had to apologize to her for being so annoying, but she gave me a license to backseat, so I took it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it really made that connection real.
Yeah. It's fun. Like everybody, you get to meet someone who you trust to teach you this game, and like you just have to put your trust in them. They must know what they're talking about. And like the relationships everybody forms from it are awesome. Like so many people are friends because of the slam, or like acquaintances. They're like interested in each other's stuff, and like it creates like a community hub of people who like get it. And like I mean, I knew after the first Tekken slam that it was gonna work, and the second one would be great, and I knew the Street Fighter one would be really, really fun as well. And like everybody just crushed it. I think the Tekken coaches really set an expectation of like it can work and do it, and so the Street Fighter coaches went in knowing that the format worked, which really helps, because I think the first one, like nobody knew what to expect exactly, so they crushed it and really set like the floor of like, hey, this is gonna work, guys, like come do this.
Right. What was it like getting into that level of event organization? Because I know you mentioned Emily, my former boss, your fiance now. I still have my back there. Yeah, there's the Equinox stick right there on the floor.
The Obsidian.
Yeah, the old Obsidian. So I'm sure her talents were very instrumental in making this happen. But now it seems like this is part of your forte, and I think you kind of got into that a little bit with Will It Kill, because that's a project in and of itself, organizing community resources and working through that. And you've also run tournament series in the past, but now the Slam's like the next level. Is this something that you're looking to keep building into? Like increasing this scale of event production? Like, is this like the next phase of your career that you're looking to grow into? Or are you still trying to find the balance of what you're going to do? Because daily streaming, commentary, event production, it's a lot. I'm kind of curious about like your daily structure even around this. Like, what are you envisioning going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think I really like doing the slams. And I never wanted to be a TO, which I think I've said many times, and a lot of people know I did not want to be a TO, but I only did it because I thought the genre needed it and I could do it. So I felt like it, and now I really love running the slams. They're really great, but it is annoying because I didn't want to do it. But I like them, and I have ideas that I think are good, and I think there's a lot of like growth in the future that could be really fun. I think when people see what our plan is for the next one, you'll sort of see what I mean. And I think on top of that, like there's so many new games coming out that I know people are interested in. When I won this award, this is Fighting Game Streamer of the Year award, my little golden people back there, I saw Saikuno on the way out. He was ditching the event at the same time we were doing it, and he like gave me a hug and congratulated me and was like telling me he was gonna play Guilty Gear and like he's interested in trying that, and like he was thinking about, he was like, yeah, I want to try like 2XKO, and that comes out. There's a lot of games that I think like you can imagine sort of collaboratively, a game where you can duo with another player has like a lot of interesting slam format and implications. So I thought a lot about that, and like basically every company has talked to me about doing a slam, like both games that are out but also games that are not out and are interested in this kind of thing. And so for me, the most important thing is I run the slams and do the format and pick the stuff and make everything happen, and it needs to be good and exceptional and well taken care of. And if I ever feel like that's not the case, I will say no. Even if someone comes to me and is like, I have $1 million, come run this slam for my game, we're going to do it this way, I just be like, no. Like, it doesn't make, if it's not good for the genre and it's not treating the genre and the people involved in the event and the people who are in the community first and foremost with respect, I'm not interested in it. So it really is valuable to me that that part is taken care of. Like, as an example, TwitchCon was the last Street Fighter Slam. We worked it out so that all the Street Fighter coaches got travel and accommodations and like hooked up to go to TwitchCon. None of the players, like the streamers and influencers, got that. It was like, if you are going to TwitchCon, you can participate in this event, basically, right? And so we cared for the fighting game community part of it more than everything else, because that's the part that's usually less thought of in the greater Twitch sphere. So using my ability to like get all these people involved but also take care of the fighting game space is really important to us. So when we did the first slam, a lot of it was like, this cannot be an influencer event that's for influencers that fighting game players don't get value from and care about. Like, fighting game players should get more value. A trip to Evo is more valuable for fighting game players that want to go and compete and like have fun and see their friends than someone who like kind of sort of is going to go to Vegas and just like check it out if they don't care that much, right? So, you know, trying to find ways to like make the slam valuable for the community and fighting games, but also give people a nice entry point to get in so that everybody feels like the event cared about them. Right. And that's like the most important thing.
Yeah, the fact that you bridge that gap is almost unfathomable to me. Like the seeing fighting game people interact with some of these streamers like blows my mind. It's not something I'd ever thought in a million years I would ever see. And then even sort of being in that position myself, I was like, what's happening? Like, like this doesn't make any sense. So I really appreciate the fact that you still have that focus on, you know, maintaining the connection with the fighting game community, because you know, there's a day that will come where you can just jump ship. You know, I fully believe that that they could be any day you choose. At this point, you could jump ship to a more profitable genre, completely leave the fighting game scene behind.
Evil Sajam could be cranking 90s right now. Like there's I could just be on Fortnite, like, but the thing for me is I've thought about that sometimes, but like I make fighting game analysis videos, man. Like, I don't think like I'm a person who like clearly does a thing to get viewership and interest. I like do the thing that I love, and I think that that's very valuable to me. And yeah, like with always, I take everything with a lot of care. Like, I want to make sure that everything is done correctly. To your point, like, you know, sometimes do I think, oh, it'd be nice if I could do something else on stream? Yeah, and then I just play Marvel Rivals on stream, which is what I've been doing the last few days. But I care about the community and the games, and so I focus on making sure that gets taken care of first and foremost. Right,
and I think that also came through because you just won Fighting Game Streamer of the Year, right? It's almost like it came full circle, right? You got your little trophy back there. So the event where, you know, you'd already had the roots planted to start the networking, and that at that event, you kind of, you know, pop the question to everybody involved. You come back a year later and you win it this time, right? So I feel like there's a big sort of like, I don't know, it closed the loop a little bit. Like you broke containment, but you still maintain the connection. You're kind of bringing us up with you, and bringing the outside community into the FGC in a way where we can like meet each other, shake hands, and appreciate each other, rather than it being this big like we're a bunch of weirdos who play games and we gatekeep and you know, like, oh, fighting games are too hard and they don't even like us anyway, so let's stay away. So you've kept that in mind. So what was
funny.
It like?
Go ahead.
No, please.
I was going to say, it's so funny that you say closing the loop, because I think about it as the beginning. Because I'm like, now people, they see this thing, they think of me as fighting game man, right? They know that Sajam is fighting game man, and like the current era of fighting games is excellent, and there's lots more coming, right? There's like so much on the table coming for the genre. So it's really, like anything, if you want to be a content creator that's big in this next game coming up, you need to be building that now so that when the next new game comes out, you're ready. So I view the current iterations of the slams and the bridging the gap to be planting seeds for the next big wave of stuff. So like this wasn't ready when Street Fighter 6 came out, and it wasn't ready when Tekken 8 came out. But like, can it be ready for the next big releases so that we can continue to build and get more and more people interested in the genre and the next thing? So it is closing a loop, but I'm always, it's to my benefit or like to my detriment. I'm always thinking of, you know, something else that we can do with it.
Well, that's good. You're always planning on the next move, right? I think that's something that's resonated or been shown throughout your entire career. You never rest on your laurels, and I think that's an inspiring thing. That's something I want to talk to you more about, maybe off stream at some point. Just the nitty gritty project management, day to day schedule. Something that I'm very impressed with what you've managed to accomplish as someone being self-employed and self-motivated. I don't think that's an easy thing, and I think that's maybe your greatest talent has been execution, right? Like when I look at what you've accomplished, I think the main thing I take away from it is like he just did it. You know, I think there's so many things where maybe people had aspirations of achieving what you've done, but the main difference is just day to day doing the thing, do the video production, do the stream, do the networking, do the event, iterate, keep improving. So I just want to commend you for doing all that. And with that, is there any other closing thoughts you want to share? You've already hinted at what's next, but what do you have to say?
You gotta just rip it, man. I so many people, you know, Emma, it's funny, my fiance, she has this problem, and I think working with me, she's realized like how you just gotta rip it. Like when you want to do something, when I did the first Will It Kill, it was shoddy and not very good, and like we grabbed all the clips ourselves. The first slam is the same way. We just like kind of was like, well, let's grab all these people and do this thing. If you want to make something happen, I promise you just have to do it. It's not going to be perfect, and you're going to have problems with it, and you should prep and try to do it well, but you just got to rip it and make it happen. And as someone who, like, I'm self-employed, self-motivated, I just do everything because I think I should and it's correct. I like the way I do everything is very like, I just need to do this. Like if it doesn't happen, if I don't do it, what's going to happen? And balancing that alongside your like work-life balance and many other factors is a complicated thing that you improve on as you do it more and you become an adult. But yeah, it's complex. And for me, like, yeah, I mean, everybody knows what I'm doing, what's going on with me. You can find me on my streams or my YouTube or my Twitter or my wherever. And I'm going to keep doing cool stuff so that the fighting game tomorrow is better than the fighting game of today. And importantly, I was going to say, this podcast has been pretty good. I've been watching these episodes. You've been moving along. I'm a fan. I watched the Nephew one, and when I saw the runtime on it, boy, I was cracking up. The whole episode, it's all I could think about. You're just like, what do you know, your life, you're balancing all these things. Like, I just did it. It's like, all right, bro, you got anything for him? But it's made me want to do podcasting again because I used to. But then I was like, man, every white guy just has a podcast. They just turn 30 years old and they just start a podcast. And I used to do one, and I stopped because getting guests is hard. As I'm sure you've realized, like collecting the guests is a whole thing. It's a whole process. That's the hardest part about a podcast to me. It's just so tiresome. I don't know how you do it.
Well, I mean, it's easy so far. Yeah, I haven't quite. Okay. The well hasn't run dry yet, but also, you know, my initial vision for this was not even to do exclusively what it's becoming right now. So I'm still thinking of ways to like branch off from the branding of it, because I also do want an opportunity to just dump, like, you know how you have your daily stream segments and you have a talk show from that. Right. I don't necessarily want my YouTube channel to. I mean, you're far more talented at structuring and delivering your messaging in that sense, anyways. So I don't want my YouTube channel to be like that. I actually want my YouTube to be able to be a place where it's more higher edited, produced content, maybe more scripted stuff, which is what I've been doing a little bit. So I would like to be able to slow down on the YouTube in terms of quantity and up the quality, and then have podcasting be more for let it rip, whatever, off the cuff stuff. And then it also feature the higher quality stuff in between. So like, what if a tournament happens and I want to blab for an hour, maybe have someone else on about what went down? I would love to do that too. And so that was supposed to be featured in between this to allow a lot more volume. But then there was such a good reception to like the history focus thing, which is what I wanted to achieve as well, because it started with IDOM. It's like I saw so many comments where people just did not know that he like won Capcom Cup before. And I was like, oh, I'm becoming an old head. Like, I need the children to know like how many times that unk beat this unk's ass. You know what I mean? Like I needed them to know like he was that guy for a while because I had to suffer under his reign, right? So I definitely saw a need to preserve this. So we'll see where this goes because I don't know.
That's a great example, right? Like you started a thing and you just did it and it became something that you maybe didn't even expect, but like it's better for it, and you can reformat and create something that suits the other niche of like what you're describing. That happens to me constantly where I'm like, I'm going to do the fighting game version of like Mogul Mail, and then I'm like, no, I shouldn't, because of like when like something happens and you're just like, this doesn't make any sense. What am I thinking? Like there's not enough topics to do this, or like something happens and I just create something else that stemmed from an idea otherwise. But yeah, I find it funny you say that because I just do what I want to do. That makes most sense and I think is good. And I think you're so thoughtful about what you create and like how it comes out and like where it is. Whereas I'm just like, everything needs to happen. Like we just need to get this out there and like human beings need to see all of this. So yeah, I try to keep like quality is a concern, of course, but I try to just like shake people with all the important stuff.
I feel like I've done that for so long now that I think this focus on quality has been a very recent thing, but it's more of a, I'm turning both knobs really, right? I want to increase the quality, but to increase the quality, I have to just do it, right? So I think I'm actually turning that knob more these days where it's like, just do it. You should just do it. And that's helped me do this because I think for me, resting on my laurels is just do stream, talk about something, put it to YouTube, right? And let AA make me look good, right? Like that's essentially what it was. It was like AA's doing the heavy lifting. It's like, let me maybe plot something ahead of time a bit more, put more effort in, and make this something where I can be like, okay, like I worked a muscle in a way I hadn't before, and I grew in some kind of way, which I think is always super important to do. And so that's just something I've been noticing and observing in other people in the space too. And it's funny you mentioned the Mogul Mail. Like I totally stole that format for the CPT recaps. If you've ever seen one of those, I completely one-to-one stole the format. I was like, this is too fucking perfect. Like, and also stemming from the need of like, nobody knows what the hell is going on with these online tournaments. And it made me so sad to see that nobody knows these stories whatsoever. And that was another thing that had that was the precursor to this. Those tournament recaps had a lot of success on the YouTube channel beyond what I thought they would. And I was like, there's a gap to be filled here. So
that's why I started commentating over all the World Warriors that have been happening. Cause I was like, a lot of these are just in another language and like no one knows. Right. So it solves the same kind of problem. But I've been thinking the same thing even with my game shows. Before the Slam, I had like a new game show idea to replace Will It Kill actually. So I was like, I don't know if Will It Kill is, I mean, people love it, but like I was like, I need to do something different. I felt the urge to iterate and change. And then I did the Slam, so I just been doing Will It Kill, and now again I'm like gonna run the Slam, but I want to make a new game show at the same time. So it's you always feel that itch. I think it's, and the itch is a good sign because it just means you have stuff you want to make.
Right. And I think just doing it is the important thing. Like that's something I've been learning so much more. So I think that's so important for people if they're watching and interested in this space, because that's something, we're going on tangents here, but you're inspiring me to talk about it because I love the content creation game, and there's so many people in this space who just struggle to find a footing and they want to create something, and the main thing is to do it, but also find a way to do it where you add value. And I always want to point back to you as someone who found a way to contribute as like not necessarily a pro level player, even though because it's a common talking point. It's like, oh, if you're not X, Y, or Z, you can't make it in this space. But I think the main thing is what value can you add to a potential viewer or someone, like whatever audience you're trying to curate. What value do you add? One value proposition is I am great at this game. You will watch me be entertained by great gameplay or learn from me. Or I am a great analytical mind for this game or whatever. I'm a great storyteller. I can tell you the stories of these games. I know the lore. What is it? What are you trying to actually add value to at the base level before anyone cares about you or your personality? Yeah, and then just do it.
To that point, part of what like the infraction point of like, do I be a commentator or a player was like, there's way more players than commentators that are really truly excellent, right? So like, makes more sense to do the one that's less common. So like, I cared more about it for that reason. And yeah, you got to do it. And if you don't want to be a content creator, you can still make content for fun that you love and don't have expectations about views and stuff. But like, yeah, if you want it to do well, you like need to do it. And I've been making content for over half my life, like 15 years. And that's like, you know, I have the level of success I have, but like Maximilian dude started making content at like the same time as me, and our levels of success is very different, right? And
Interesting.
Yet, you know, like you would think like you and I, like if you think about it like that, you're like, damn, this Sajam guy's way smaller than Maximilian dude or whatever.
Right.
But like, I'm extremely happy with what I have. And like, you got to just think about it like, you don't need to have a billion views. You just need to make stuff that you like and stick to it, and it's cool. And like the stuff he makes is so different than the stuff I make, right? Like it's what's cool about it.
I never considered you guys started at the same time, but I guess he also hit that phase of like time to execute to the utmost of my abilities earlier, right?
Yes.
I think that's a completely different stride that you hit as a content creator, because you were doing a lot of work, but it was still about quantity to a degree, right? Like, and you wanted to hit all the character tutorials,
yes,
not just one like, that is a movie.
Right. He was older and smarter about it, and he had the money to execute better. Those are like the three things. Right? When I was literally a child, like I was literally 12, 13 years old making content, and he was like an adult man. So yeah, the difference in, you know, like our creative stuff was
I mean, you're still learning about life. You're still learning about how to do things.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like I'm only learning that now. I feel so far behind.
Yeah. And like the difference between our ages feels appropriate for the level of success we have, is what I feel like too. Like he is very clearly, like he is way smarter about what he did and like why he did it and the execution of it than like little child me who is starving as a wrestler trying to make content on the side. Right. You know, like it's just so different. And that's, you know, a part of this whole content thing.
Right. And I think that's interesting you brought up, like, you can make content just for your own self-expression. I think that's to me, if you're making content, it's because you want to create value for someone on the receiving end. That's what I've finally kind of distilled it down to. That value can be entertainment, it can be education, it can be whatever, but it's some sort of value proposition. If you view this, you will receive value out of it. If you make something for the sole purpose of expressing yourself, you're not making content, you're making art.
Yeah, sure.
Which is totally, please, we need more art in the world. Like, there's definitely enough content out there. We need great art is a whole different process. But that might not get views because what you're not guaranteeing value to somebody.
Yeah.
Art is, if you're doing a true self-expression, you are not necessarily guaranteeing value to anyone, or they might not know what value they're going to get out of it, and it's going to be subjective because that's art, right? So I think that's definitely a really healthy mindset to approach it behind, because I would be interested in artsy fighting game related material. Some of it hits, some of it's kind of corny, some of it doesn't speak to me, but they're hyping people. And Jeremy Mansford, right? He did the merch for my Respect the Stones merch line back in the day. I remember I hit him up because he did a personal project for, it might have been the Street Fighter 30th anniversary, or I'm not even sure what year they're on. But he did a video with Ryu, his own animation, own like sort of trip hop breakbeat music scoring with his voiceover from Ryu voice lines. And it was Ryu fighting the battle within. And it has like this sick fucking beat drop, and it's like Ryu's fist in front of himself, and it zooms out. There's a million Ryus fighting each other, and I was like, dude, I've never seen something like, it gets me chills thinking about it. Everything else in the fighting game stage was so corny to me. And I saw that, and I was like, wow, this is not corny. This is fucking badass, right?
Yeah, you did the cinema. You were like, cinema, right? This is it, right here. Like, this is it. This is the. It peak.
Finally happened. So, but he had no views. He had no views on this video. I did a reaction video. I was like, look, I'm going to play this video. Go click on this, run the numbers up, whatever. He went from like 200 views to like 30,000, which is still, it should be 30 million, right? But, and he even asked me, like, oh, what do I do for YouTube stuff? And I'm like, dude, you're an artist. Like, I don't know. Like, it's not the same platform. It's not the same sort of mentality. So I think that's something to be cognizant of. You make art, I don't know.
If you make art, you're an artist. That's your own. We're content creators. We can't help you with that. Okay, like that's a different. You got to go ask an artist.
That's true. That's true. All right. Well, I got to go to bed. I know you got plenty of time. Is there any final closing thoughts you have?
I have a lot of meetings tomorrow. So thanks for watching, everybody. Good luck to Brian's editor with this long video.
He needs it. All right, Sajam. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.